Ex ignores our kids for his stepkids, blames me for their distance. Am I the asshole for saying they're justified in feeling fatherless? Original. I'm 33 and have 2 kids, 12 and 8. I divorced their dad when I discovered he was cheating on me with a mom from our younger son's school group. Despite that betrayal, I agreed to shared custody because I wanted my kids to grow up with their father in their lives. However, since the divorce, he's only been around when he's picking them up for visits. He often goes out with his stepchildren but rarely includes our kids, claiming those outings are spur of the moment and can't always include them. Eventually, I stopped pushing, but I've always thought it was unfair that he keeps his distance from our children's lives. Recently, I decided to upgrade my older son's computer, and he asked if we could give his old one to his cousin, my brother's son. My brother has been a huge support for my kids. He's always available to take them to their school events when I can and often takes them out to the park or for trips when I'm busy. My ex, on the other hand, is rarely available for them. Anytime I ask him to help with an activity, he has an excuse. He's out of town or swamped with work. Ironically though, whenever his stepkids need something, he's there. Once he even argued with the stepkid's father at a school event, insisting he had the right to be there. When my ex found out I gave the computer to my nephew, he got upset. He complained that if I had money to spare on a gift like that, I should have forgiven 2 months of child support he'd missed, since his finances were tight with a new baby. He added that if I could give away a computer, I should have gifted it to either his kids or his stepkids, who share just one computer among the 3 of them. I told him my finances were none of his business and that I owed nothing to his stepchildren. Then his wife jumped into the conversation, accusing me of spoiling my son by giving him a new computer and of being petty for letting my son bring it to their house, claiming it was just to show off in front of his step-siblings. I told her she had no right to speak to me that way or question my decisions. I added that I allow my kids to see their father so they can grow up with him in their lives, not so she can interfere with how I parent. My ex was offended, but I told him this whole situation could have been avoided if his wife hadn't inserted herself where she doesn't belong. After that, things seemed to calm down until last week. I went to pick up the kids, and my ex was visibly upset. He explained that he'd tried reading a bedtime story to our youngest. At home, he still likes to be read to before bed, usually by me, his brother, or my brother, and when none of us are around, he listens to audiobooks. Apparently, my ex wanted to make an effort to connect, so he offered to read to him, but our son turned him down, saying he didn't need him for that because he could do it himself. My ex stayed to listen as he searched for a story for 8-year-olds without a dad, on his tablet, and it hit him hard. The next day, my ex offered to take our older son to basketball practice, but he replied that he'd be going with his dad. He quickly corrected himself and said uncle. That made my ex even angrier, and when I came to pick up the kids, he confronted me about it. I told him that if our kids feel like they don't have a father, he has only himself to blame. He tried to shift the blame onto me, saying I was the one pushing him away from his role. I told him it's up to him to show up for his kids, not something I can do for him. I reminded him he was the one who broke our family, and he's chosen to be more involved with his stepkids than with his own children. I told him not to kid himself. The kids are growing up and they're starting to see the reality of who he is as a father. If he keeps this up, he can't expect much from them in the future. After that exchange, his mom called me. While she's always been polite to me, I felt the need to say that I would have appreciated this same concern from her when she supported her son's affair, knowing her grandchildren were losing their father in the process. She hung up and we haven't spoken since. My brother advised me that I had every right to express how I feel, but he suggested that maybe this discussion shouldn't have happened in front of the kids. Later, my ex texted me saying that if I weren't so difficult, he'd spend more time with them. I told him his duty as a father doesn't depend on whether I'm easy or not, and he knows I've never prevented him from seeing the kids. The truth is, when he has to choose, he prefers outings with his stepkids over his own children, and that's something only he can change. Comments. Lap steel guitar. You can only do so much, OP, and don't let him off the hook for any child support. The fact that it's stretching his budget is a him problem, not a you problem. And I agree with your brother that conversation should not have happened in front of the kids. But, if I understand correctly, your ex chose the time and place, not giving you much choice in the matter. NTA Amazing Reserve 9089, I love how if she had extra money, she should forgive child support, but him already knowing money was tight wasn't a reason to not have another kid. Ancient Wishbone 4621, my ex stayed to listen as he searched for a story for 8-year-olds without a dad on his tablet. Pfft, your kid is ruthless. Good for him. NTA Judgment. NTA Update. 11 days later. These past days have been a bit unusual. First, I want to thank all of you. I didn't expect to receive so much advice, and I never thought this app would be so useful. It's not very popular in my country. Now, back to the topic. My ex sent me messages saying he wanted to resolve things, stop arguing and talk to me. I agreed. He came to my house, and we didn't beat around the bush, we went straight to the point. He asked me if I really thought he was a bad father. I replied that, looking back now, I never would have chosen him to be the father of my children. He said it wasn't easy for him, and I answered that it wasn't easy for me either because I take on both his role and mine. He told me he couldn't leave his stepchildren without a father because he had already broken their family, and I replied that he had left his own children without a father. He started crying and told me it was my fault, saying that when the infidelity happened, I refused to forgive him or go to couples therapy. I kept telling him things I'll admit they weren't kind, but none of them were lies. He asked me if, given his current state, I didn't feel sorry for him, and I said no. He told me he didn't think I could be so cruel, and I replied that when I changed jobs, pulled my kids out of school 2 months before the end of the term, moved houses, and watched him disappoint our kids over and over again, any empathy I might have felt turned into apathy. He left after that. His mother called me and said she knew what I had told her son, that he hadn't stopped crying, and that she didn't understand how I could carry so much hatred to hurt her son like that. She said I should just get over it. I answered, with all due respect, what I said wasn't out of hatred but out of truth. If your son is crying, it's because he's finally facing the consequences of his actions. Maybe instead of worrying about how he feels now, you should have taught him to take responsibility and treat people with respect. She said I didn't know what it was like to feel a mother's love and see a child suffer, and I replied that I did understand because I have 2 children who cry over a living father. 2 children who see their dad being a father to other kids when he doesn't have time to be their father. She said he was sorry, and I told her not to put words in his mouth and to stop calling me about anything related to her son. I hung up. I wanted to cry so badly, but I'm a damned mother, and I don't have time for that. I want my kids to feel safe, loved, and strong enough not to need anyone, not even me, to be themselves. Last Thursday, I took my kids to their cousin's birthday party, hosted by my ex-sister-in-law. I still have a good relationship with her. She was the one who told me about the infidelity and that her mother was already encouraging it. My ex showed up alone and irritated. My kids kept their distance from him. They kissed his hand but then ignored him completely. My ex-mother-in-law told the kids they should show more respect to their father, and my eldest replied that he doesn't show respect for me since he and his partner talk badly about me. I scolded my son, not for what he said but for how he addressed his grandmother. I told him it was wrong to eavesdrop on private conversations and repeat them. Then I asked him to gather his things because we were leaving. My ex-mother-in-law asked me not to leave, saying the kids were having fun and we could resolve this as adults. She asked my ex what he had said and he claimed not to remember. I told her I didn't care and she said we should be good parents. I replied that to be good parents, you need to be good people first. My ex was getting agitated. My ex-mother-in-law asked why we couldn't have a civilized co-parenting relationship. I told her everything I've mentioned here about his free will to see the kids and how the second custody agreement isn't working since he only sees them some weekends. My ex didn't want to discuss it, saying he had too many kids at home. My ex-mother-in-law told him the only kids who should feel comfortable are his, and the comfort of the others should be provided by their biological father. My ex wanted to end the conversation because his mother was scolding him for being a careless father. He also said it was my fault. I asked him to clarify how it was my fault. You can see the kids whenever you want, what more do you want? He started yelling, claiming I was only being petty because I didn't really need the money since I earned more than him and had fewer kids to feed. I told him I wouldn't continue the conversation and that I'd show him what being uncivilized looks like by filing for the overdue child support payments. His mother asked what I meant by overdue payments. I explained that he was 3 months behind. She was furious, slapped him, and demanded to know what he had done with the money for his children. He answered, I couldn't let JR miss out on attending the same school as my son. I didn't want him to feel inferior. My ex-mother-in-law said she couldn't believe it, and they started arguing. I left. Yet for context, my youngest son attends a private school, and my ex pays for his stepson to attend the same school. Yesterday, my ex-mother-in-law came over and said she would pay the overdue fees. She brought the money in cash. I knew my ex would be furious. Here's some context. My ex-mother-in-law doesn't work, doesn't own anything herself, and lives with my ex-sister-in-law. However, she does have significant savings from her inheritance. If she pays the tuition, my ex knows there won't be much left for him when she passes, even though she's still healthy. He's been asking her for years to invest some of that money in his business ideas, but she's always refused. My ex's retaliation was not picking up the kids this weekend. Yesterday, my ex-sister-in-law called me. She doesn't know all the details yet, but apparently, my ex's 15-year-old stepson punched him in the mouth. She said she'll let me know exactly what happened once she finds out. And before anyone asks, the new custody agreement will likely take a year to finalize. The court says the overdue payments are the priority, and the rest can wait. We have more urgent cases. Comments Snoo Woofers 496. At least his mama finally got some fucking sense. Her son is a piece of shit. Glassgirl 1021. He obviously fed her a line of bullshit when she was defending him. Welcome 7940. When the evil mill turns on her spoiled child, you know he was 100% wrong. It's not even a question of perspective anymore. Unusual Potato 1515. The chef's kiss was being punched by the stepson he prioritizes his own kids over. Bet he feels utterly ridiculous now. Update, 1 day later. A promise is a promise. As I mentioned earlier, my ex's stepson had an altercation with him because my ex refused to let him go out. Now I have more details. My ex's stepson had plans to go bowling with some friends. His biological father had already given him permission and money for the outing. However, when he told his mother, she said he couldn't go because they needed him to stay home and watch his younger siblings. My ex and his wife had planned an outing and needed someone to stay with the kids. This led to an argument. The boy raised his voice to his mother, and my ex stepped in to demand that he respect her. The boy replied that he wasn't his father. Trying to maintain authority, my ex told him that as long as he lived under his roof, he had to follow his rules. The boy ignored him and turned away. My ex followed him and touched his shoulder to get his attention. At that moment, the boy turned around, punched him, and shouted that he wasn't his father and could never compare to him. The mother scolded him for his behavior, but the boy, still angry, shouted back that he hated her. This version was shared by my ex and his wife to my ex-mother-in-law. My sister-in-law later related to me. They went to see my ex-mother-in-law to try to gain her sympathy and convince her to take care of the kids, the 2 stepchildren and the baby so they could go out. However, my ex-mother-in-law told them she would not take care of the children. When I spoke to my ex, he mentioned he was dealing with family issues and claimed that the boy's biological father was turning him against him. He didn't give me many details and omitted most of what my sister-in-law had shared. He simply informed me that, due to the situation, he wouldn't be able to pick up our children this weekend. The 15-year-old boy is now staying with his biological father. As for what I mentioned earlier, my ex was 2 months behind on child support, and that same week, he was supposed to make another payment. He didn't, leaving him 3 months behind. In the end, his mother was the one who covered the overdue amount. Regarding the child who attends the same school as my son, it's not the 15-year-old involved in the altercation. It's his younger stepbrother, who is 8 years old, the same age as my son. I decided to enroll my son in that school when the affair became public. At the time, I was working as a kindergarten teacher at the same school, and the boy had been one of my students. We all knew each other, and to protect my children from rumors, I transferred them to a private school. This happened 2 months before the school year ended. Thanks to the circumstances and the support of some kind people, we managed to get them admitted. Comments, Gdrum 123. So even after the punch and the argument they still wanted to go out. What a pathetic excuse for parents. I hope their marriage eventually falls apart. Carolina Mama, 2015. Only did they want to go out, but it's funny how he had money to take his new wife out but not pay child support for his 2 bio children. Whatever, 53,143. I think it's funny that because of the altercation he said he couldn't take his own children for the weekend. So the 15-year-old was right, the man would never compare to the kid's father. The kid's own father is a better man. Libra Harper Serene. A true father would prioritize his children's needs, especially during a conflict. Instead, he uses the situation to avoid his responsibilities. My 35M mothers, 58M, new fiancé wants me to call him dad. He's 24. How do I navigate this? Please buckle in because this is all so weird. I'm a 35-year-old man and for some backstory my dad died when I was 19, leaving my mom with me and my 2 siblings. I'm the oldest. It took some time but eventually my mom started dating again. We don't live together per se but our houses back onto each other and have a gate so it's pretty common for her to offer to do my laundry or me just go over for dinner or go look after our dog, that kind of stuff. Plus me and my siblings go over there for dinner every other Friday night or so. A bit after she started, the men she's been dating have been getting younger and younger and I've never had a problem with them. She's been very open to me and my siblings that she wants to get married again, and we've always been supportive. At least after the initial shocks, lol. The latest guy is by far the most serious, and they've been dating since around last June. He proposed at the start of autumn and they want to get married next summer. Again, me and my siblings are fine with this because it's her life and we trust him. He's a nice guy and they clearly love each other. But anyway. So long and short is, this weekend, her fiancé, let's call him Phil, calls me and asks me if I could come over. I say yeah, sure. I'll be over after work, and I assumed he just needed help with some DIY stuff they're doing. When I get over there he calls me sport, and says we need to talk. I should mention this is something he does to me and my little brother, calling us things like kid, sport, scout, little buddy, or my personal favorite, calling us red and blue, seemingly out of nowhere. My brother is 30 by the way. He tried it with my little sister, 28, too once, and called her princess once, but he stopped when she just stared at him. The thing with Phil is that he reminds me a lot of Charlie Day's character in Horrible Bosses, in that his sole ambition has always been to meet a girl, get married and have a family. When he told me and my brother this, my brother made some joke about how maybe our mom's going to come short on the last part, and he got very upset, but they made up after. Anyway, so I go round and I ask if my mom's around, and he says no, it's just him and that we really need to talk man to man. I say sure, and he starts talking about how he's always wanted to be a father, etc. and raise a son to call his own, and then he drops this bombshell by saying, now I know I can never replace your father, the man who made you, but it would mean the world to me if you could call me dad. I'll admit it. I sniggered a little. And then I knew he was serious because he looked like he was about to cry. And he didn't drop it either. I asked if he really meant it, and he got really emotional and started talking about what it means to be a man, and how his purpose is to have and provide for a family, and he wants me and my siblings to be part of that family. Like he reiterated he'll never replace my father. And this did rub me the wrong way a bit. But he's ready to step up and be my dad and provide for and protect me and my siblings. And I'm just sitting there thinking, dude, I'm a decade older than you and live in a separate house. I don't need providing for, and even if I did, I don't think a guy a third of my age who works part-time at the hardware store and is into collecting manga is the man to do it. No offense if you're into that, lol, just... I don't know, I was a bit taken aback. I was in shock, so just said okay, and he gets emotional again, but in a happy way, talking about how he wants to go camping or go to a baseball game. I don't even like baseball, LMAO. And how he joined the Lions this year and how he wants to bring me into it too as his boy, which just feels so surreal, even more so as I'm a Shriner. So all this talk of service and charity isn't the brag he thinks it is, because again I'm 10 years older than this guy. Well, I ended it by just saying, this has gotten a bit too weird, and I was going home. He got very upset and I left, called my brother and he agreed it sounds weird as fuck. Later my mom called me and she wasn't disappointed but admitted it's made him very upset and depressed. I told her that if he's embarrassed, he doesn't need to be. I get he's excited about the marriage and we can just laugh this off as a funny story. She then said that wasn't what he was upset about. He, and she too a bit, is upset about the fact he poured his heart out and I rejected him. She said yeah, it is a bit kooky, but this is how he proves to himself he's a man, and I guess I was a bit angry and said something like, first off, it's not my job to certify what's between his legs, and second, this doesn't prove he's a man, it just proves he's a nut job. I apologized immediately, but she said she didn't want to hear it and hung up. She called back 10 minutes later and we apologized, and she begged me to just go along with it until he has some kids to call his own. I won't go too much into the details here, but she sort of let slip they plan to try IVF treatment because she's not ready to give up on being a mom just yet. And while I have my own thoughts about whether or not that's a good idea, I'm not here to litigate on that. We finished up fine and I reiterated I'd support her, and she agreed that it was definitely a stressful situation for me but begged me to at least think about it. Which leads me here. I did think it over, and obviously I'm going to say no. I had a dad and he died, rest in peace dad. And that's the only dad I've ever needed, I've ever wanted, and I'll ever bestow that title on. I'm not asking if someone's unreasonable or what I should do, more so what I should say. This clearly means a lot to him for some reason, and I deeply love my mom, so I want to try and minimize the damage. Especially as we're still so involved in each other's lives and they live behind me. How can I make it clear to them, as painlessly as possible, that I think this is weird and borderline offensive? I really don't want to rip the band-aid off because I fear what it might do to the family. Edit. Showed my brother the post and he laughed so hard he started coughing, lol, then said we should call him Dr. Phil, and each other blue and red, so swap the nicknames he gave us around. Thoughts? Edit 2. As people were asking, he has no access to my mom's money or anything like that. She rents the house and it came pre-furnished and otherwise has no real assets. She doesn't make a lot of money anyway, so there's no pecuniary motive we could think of. Relevant comments. Raven Dorcombe. I wonder if he grew up without a dad. He's giving a weird 1950s energy to this whole thing that feels like he only knows about dads from seeing them on the telly. OOP, oh no, his dad's still alive, both his parents are, I've met them. They definitely feel odd about the whole situation but go along with it for his sake. So I felt dizzy. It seems your mom and her fiancé may have found each other while both in deeply vulnerable states, and so your instinct to keep being there for them may be right. A vulnerable person asking is different to a regular situation. Would calling him PA be a compromise? Or Step? Or Skip? Some version of his first name such as Coach Tom or Chief Wayne? If so, perhaps ask him if that would be okay with him. Maybe just a nickname that his own may be recognition enough of his relationship with your mom. Edit. I now think Op should get help with how to navigate this, and possibly brain scans for them. Op lives next door and I was asking for ideas to keep the peace for now because of the lad's depression. It turned out to be much stranger than I had thought. OOP, the thing is it became apparent it's more than just a name to him. He explicitly wants to do father-son activities with me and my brother with him as the dad, despite the fact we're both older than him. Sweet Peppa this. Like of course he feels like a child in this relationship and family. He's not going to feel like a man of the house in this situation. He's very unlikely to get his own child. So why is he sticking around? OOP. Me and my siblings all think he has issues talking to girls his own age. And so it led to this. Moa 711. I would have laughed then said, no kiddo, start over, because this isn't how this is going. I also get you're supporting your mom, but maybe question her having a kid at 58. Like, does she plan to be around for graduation? Marriages? Grandkids? It sounds like your mom is having some empty nest issues and is illogically trying to start over. If she got pregnant today, she would be approximately 77 years old when her kid graduated. Considering she hasn't even started trying yet, that means she will be in her 80s when the kid graduates. That isn't realistic. Also, I have a 5 and 7-year-old and am only 38 years old and already feel tired all the time. I can't imagine what a 58-year-old would feel like. OOP. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I don't actually see this ever going ahead, hence why I'm happy to say yeah, of course I'll support you, because I guess I just can't imagine, push comes to shove, her actually getting the treatment greenlit. I did raise the age stuff and she just said, people live a lot longer these days. Rick Russell TX, you just need to straight up tell him no. You can couch it with encouragement. You appreciate that he cares about your mother, etc. But just hit him with a hard no. Don't negotiate over it, there is nothing to be gained here by trying to give him a soft landing. Anything other than a firm no is just feeding his delusion, and I believe that once he gets a concession, he's going to start making more demands. I don't know what his endgame is here, if it's a mental health problem, or he's trying to create some legal precedent that he intends to exploit later, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to explain, defend, or justify this decision. OOP, the endgame? I genuinely think he wants to start a family or at least pretend he's the dad of one. Ever since we met him, it's all he'd ever really go on about and how he needs to be a dad to become a man. Very early on he asked me if I ever planned to have kids and I said no, and he got quite taken aback, like a mixture of offense and confusion, and sort of seemed to imply I'm either gay, I am but or trans because I don't want to be a man then. Murky perceptions. Hope it works out in the long run, but I was laughing so hard by the end. Such a crazy situation. I think you should talk with your mom and maybe hang out with her fiancé, but as bros, not some weird dad situation. OOP, I have offered this. But every time me and my brother do, he definitely tries to act like the man of the group or sets us up for more explicit father-son activities, or just talks about how desperate he is to be a father. A personal favorite was a time when he got his phone out and started reading some pearls of wisdom he'd obviously found online. Trapped in the suburbs. Yeah, she probably hasn't even been to a doctor, and is just imagining an unrealistic future based on internet articles and Hallmark Lifetime movies. Based on OP's description of the couple's finances, they wouldn't be able to afford IVF even if it was possible. OOP, yeah, she's not seen a doctor, this is purely stuff they've planned to do in the future. They've never mentioned money and my sister is worried that they'll ask us to pay for it. Update, 4 days later. Original post and slightly amended the title for clarity. Anyway, so I told both my siblings and we agreed we'd collectively put our foot down with Phil at our next family dinner next week. Especially after an incident where Phil referred to my brother as sport, and asked if he wanted to go see a baseball game with him. Admittedly, I was a bit spurred on by what you all said and got involved, pinging him back with "Aw, no tickets for me, daddy." And my brother responded with "Daddy wants to me all to himself, hot," and Phil took a few minutes to respond before saying he was shocked, speechless and disgusted. He then messaged me in private to say he was utterly appalled, and that he'd never disrespect his own father the way you boys did. I kind of lost it at this point and said, "Right, that's because you're not my father, Phil. You're a 24-year-old man-child dating my mother. You have no right to my respect, especially not to the respect a father gets." I immediately said sorry but then blocked his number and left the group chat. Apparently he sent a similar thing to my brother, who responded with more daddy stuff, and Phil blocked him. Well, that aside, I don't think that family dinner is going ahead. After the original post blew up, it seems someone from his Lions Club found it and reported it to their chair or whatever, and Phil has either been expelled or resigned or in the process of one of the two. He has removed nearly all mentions of the Lions from his social media and no longer mentions being a member, with his last post on it being some cryptic goodbye post where he kinda drones on about what it means to be a man in the modern day and the duty of fatherhood bestowed on all men at birth. Really weird shit. My mom called me half in a panic, half in a rage after, about the stuff I'd been telling about him before breaking down and saying we need to meet, which we did and got my brother to go over too. I know he has temporarily moved back in with his parents in the next town over, but from my understanding they still want to go ahead with the wedding, but I think that's more so because they've already spent money on it. When she said she was determined to have more kids, plural, my brother did step up and asked if she really thought that was a good idea at her age, and I pointed out that assuming she had the baby next year, and she lived to 80, they still wouldn't have finished college. She just stammered on about how people live longer these days, before breaking down crying and admitting she's not ready to give up on mothering due to some deep-seated trauma and fears about the family breaking apart that I won't go into for her sake. When we reassured her that we weren't going anywhere, she calmed down and we had a very good honest conversation where she's agreed to drop the IVF stuff on the grounds that it'd be too expensive and unlikely to get greenlit, but she's still adamant it's scientifically possible and she should be allowed to do it from an ethical standpoint because she has to win that argument. However, and has agreed to look into fostering instead. Me and my brother highly doubt anything will ever come of that, so we're not that worried anymore. The very good news is she's also agreed to look into therapy, psychiatric help to deal with her trauma, and we've helped get her in touch with a nice lady in town to unpack all this in a more healthy way. So at least one person is getting the help they need. I have no idea what's happened with Phil or what's going to happen with him, but I did make it clear to my mom that he is not my dad, he's not even my stepdad, I'm not a kid. And he's never going to be either one outside of legal fuckery. She relented pretty quickly. I think she's finally broken out of her shell at least, and we've agreed that if things go ahead that's going to be a huge red line though. I don't know if he'll want to be friends with me after all this LMAO. Anyway, thanks for the help on the original post, y'all. Edit, bit of an update, as I can't respond to everybody, but I think the marriage is off. Phil has gone AWOL again and has had a huge argument with his family as they've demanded he call off the wedding and date people his own age. This apparently made him snap. Me and my mom have met his mom and older brother, who said Phil is very insecure around girls his own age and has never been able to talk to them, hence his preference. This very deeply upset my mom, and after some begging from all of us, she has agreed to push the wedding back, though she wants to keep dating him. I have no idea where Phil is, though his brother assumes he's couch surfing with his D&D friends, who have been sending me and my brother some not so nice messages because clearly we're just jealous of the MILF hunter. If any of you socially inept fucks are reading this, I don't need to chase middle-aged folk because I can talk to boys my own age like a normal person. Peace.
For my birthday, my friend's boyfriend gave me a family heirloom that he had stolen, and now, everything is in chaos. It was a crisp autumn evening when I gathered with my closest friends to celebrate my 26th birthday. We had chosen our usual spot, a cozy little bistro tucked away in a quiet corner of the city, known for its warm ambiance and delicious comfort food. The place was perfect for our small group, providing an intimate setting where we could laugh, share stories, and enjoy each other's company without the hustle and bustle of larger venues. The bistro was softly lit, with fairy lights strung across the ceiling and candles flickering on each table, casting a warm golden glow. The aroma of freshly baked bread and simmering stew filled the air, mingling with the sound of soft jazz playing in the background. It was the kind of place where time seemed to slow down, allowing us to savor every moment of the evening. My friends and I had known each other for years, having met during various stages of our lives. Some from university, others through mutual acquaintances. We had formed a tight-knit group, supporting each other through thick and thin. There was an unspoken understanding among us, a mutual respect and affection that made our gathering special. We had developed a tradition when it came to birthday celebrations. Our gifts were always thoughtful but modest, reflecting our shared understanding of each other's financial situations. Most of us were young professionals or grad students, juggling careers, studies, and sometimes both. The gifts we exchanged were typically in the €10–40 range, a book, a voucher for theater tickets, or perhaps a nice bottle of wine. It was never about the monetary value but the sentiment behind the gesture. As I looked around the table, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the friends who had become my second family. There was Emma, my best friend since university. At 26, she was a vivacious and spirited individual, always the life of the party. With her curly blonde hair and infectious laugh, Emma had a knack for making everyone around her feel at ease. She worked as a graphic designer, her creativity evident in everything she did. Emma had a kind heart and a fierce loyalty to those she cared about, making her the glue that held our group together. Next to her sat Jason, 27, a software engineer with a quiet demeanor but a sharp wit. Jason was the problem solver of the group, always ready with a solution or a piece of advice. His dark hair and glasses gave him an intellectual appearance, which matched his personality perfectly. Despite his reserved nature, Jason had a dry sense of humor that never failed to catch us off guard, resulting in fits of laughter at the most unexpected moments. Then there was Sarah, 26, a fellow grad student who shared my love for literature and history. Sarah was thoughtful and introspective, with an uncanny ability to read people and situations. Her auburn hair and green eyes gave her an ethereal quality, and she often seemed lost in her own world of books and ideas. Despite this, Sarah was incredibly empathetic, always ready to lend an ear or offer a comforting word. And finally, there was Alex, my good friend who had brought along her boyfriend, Mark, for the first time. Alex, also 26, was a social worker with a passion for helping others. She had a bubbly personality and an infectious energy that brightened any room she entered. Her long brown hair and warm smile were as welcoming as her nature. Alex had been dating Mark for about a year, and while we hadn't spent much time with him yet, she often spoke highly of him. Mark, 28, was an enigma to most of us. He was a freelance photographer, often struggling to find steady work, which led to some financial instability. With his rugged good looks, dark hair, and piercing blue eyes, Mark had an air of mystery about him. He was charming and personable, but there was an underlying restlessness in his demeanor, as if he were constantly searching for something just out of reach. As the evening progressed, we enjoyed a delicious meal, accompanied by laughter and heartfelt conversations. The table was soon filled with small, neatly wrapped gifts, each one a testament to our shared understanding of each other's tastes and interests. I had received a beautifully illustrated book from Emma, a handmade candle from Sarah, and a thoughtful card from Jason with a voucher for my favorite bookstore. When it came time for Alex to present her gift, she handed me a small package with a sheepish smile. "This is from both of us," she said, nodding towards Mark. I opened it to find a lovely bracelet, delicate and simple, perfectly suited to my style. I thanked them both, genuinely touched by the thoughtfulness of their gift. However, Mark surprised me by handing me another gift, separate from Alex's. It was a small object, carefully wrapped in plain paper. "This is from me," he said with a smile. "I hope you like it." I unwrapped the gift, revealing a beautiful antique trinket. It was a small, intricately designed item that instantly reminded me of a recent trip I had taken to my mother's home country in winter. I was genuinely moved by the gesture, thanking Mark warmly for the thoughtful gift. Little did I know that this seemingly innocent present would soon unravel a series of unexpected events, leading to revelations and decisions that none of us could have anticipated. As the night drew to a close and I returned home, I couldn't help but replay the evening's events in my mind. It had been a wonderful birthday celebration, filled with the warmth and laughter that only good friends could bring. Yet, as I unpacked the gifts I had received, one particular present stood out. The antique trinket from Mark. Its exquisite design had caught my eye the moment I unwrapped it. But now, in the quiet of my apartment, it seemed to demand even more of my attention. I placed the small item on my coffee table, its intricate details illuminated by the soft light of my reading lamp. The craftsmanship was remarkable, unlike anything I had seen before. Certain elements, such as the delicate engravings and the lustrous finish, hinted at its age and potential value. The more I looked at it, the more questions arose in my mind. Where had Mark found such a unique piece? And why would he choose to give me something that seemed far more valuable than our usual range of gifts? I picked up the trinket again, turning it over in my hands. There was something about the way the light played off its surface, especially the parts that looked like they should be glass but weren't. It was almost as if the object had a story of its own to tell, a history that was waiting to be uncovered. I noticed a small maker's mark on the bottom, an intricate symbol that seemed almost familiar, though I couldn't quite place it. My curiosity now fully piqued, I decided to do a bit of research. I grabbed my laptop and settled onto the couch, determined to find out more about this mysterious gift. I started by searching for the maker's mark, hoping it would lead me to some answers. The first few results were vague, offering little information beyond general descriptions of antique symbols. But then, after several minutes of scrolling and clicking through links, I found a match. The symbol belonged to a renowned artisan from the 19th century, famous for creating high-quality handcrafted items. The trinket, it seemed, was not just any antique. It was a piece of historical significance, likely worth a considerable amount of money. My heart skipped a beat as I read on, absorbing the details of the artisan's legacy and the value of his works. The more I learned, the more astonished I became. I found an online auction site that listed similar items by the same artisan, with prices ranging from several hundred to several thousand euros. My mind raced as I tried to process the information. Could it be that the trinket Mark had given me was worth that much? It seemed unbelievable, and yet the evidence was right in front of me. To be sure, I searched for the exact item, using keywords that described its specific features. After what felt like an eternity, I found a match. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at the screen. There it was, the exact same trinket, listed for 750 euros. I blinked, hoping I had made a mistake, but the details were unmistakable. A wave of mixed emotions washed over me: disbelief, confusion, and a growing sense of unease. Why would Mark give me something so expensive? It was wildly inappropriate, especially considering our group's unspoken agreement about modest gifts. Moreover, knowing that Mark was often financially strained made the situation even more perplexing. Had he really spent this much money on a gift for me? And if so, why? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The more I thought about it, the more it didn't make sense. I considered the possibility that Mark might not have known the true value of the item, but that seemed unlikely. The trinket was clearly special, and its worth would have been apparent to anyone who had handled it. The implications of the gift were troubling. I valued my friendship with Alex deeply, and the last thing I wanted was for something like this to cause problems between us. I knew I needed to talk to her about it, but I wasn't sure how to approach the subject. What if she didn't know about the gift's value? Or worse, what if she did and it led to a confrontation between them? As I sat there, turning these thoughts over in my mind, I felt a knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. I couldn't ignore the situation, but I also didn't want to jump to conclusions without more information. The only thing I knew for certain was that I needed to get to the bottom of this, for my own peace of mind and for the sake of my friendship with Alex. I decided to sleep on it, hoping that some clarity might come with the morning. But as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind refused to rest. The image of the trinket kept flashing before my eyes, a constant reminder of the questions that still needed answers. The next day, I reached out to Alex, asking if we could meet up. I didn't mention the gift in my message, wanting to talk to her in person. She agreed, and we planned to meet at a cafe later that afternoon. As I prepared for our conversation, I felt a mixture of dread and determination. I needed to handle this delicately, but I also needed to be honest with her about my concerns. When we met, Alex greeted me with her usual warmth and energy, but I could tell something was on her mind as well. After some small talk, I took a deep breath and brought up the gift. I explained how I had researched the trinket and discovered its significant value, and watched as her expression shifted from curiosity to shock. 750 euros? She repeated, her eyes wide with disbelief. Are you sure? I nodded, showing her the listing I had found online. Alex stared at the screen, then back at me, clearly processing the information. I had no idea, she said finally. I don't even know what to say. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us grappling with the implications. Alex's face was a mix of confusion and concern. Mark has never been great with money, she admitted. But this? I don't understand why he would do this. Neither do I said quietly. And that's why I think we need to talk to him. Together. Alex agreed, and we made a plan to confront Mark that evening. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of resolve. Whatever the explanation, we needed to uncover the truth. The trinket, with all its historical significance and unexpected value, had brought us to a crossroads, and there was no turning back now. We spent the next hour discussing how to frame our questions, aiming to keep the conversation as neutral as possible initially. Our plan was to start by asking Mark about the origins of the gift, hoping he would offer some insight without feeling cornered. But we also agreed that if his answers didn't add up, we would press him for the truth. As the time for the confrontation approached, I felt a growing sense of anxiety. Confrontations were never easy, and this one had the potential to fracture our friendship and cause serious issues in Alex's relationship. But we both knew that we couldn't ignore the situation any longer. Mark arrived at Alex's apartment around 7 p.m., oblivious to the storm that was about to unfold. He greeted us with his usual charm, but I could sense an underlying tension in his demeanor. We all sat down in the living room, and after some initial small talk, Alex and I exchanged a glance, signaling that it was time to begin. "Mark," Alex started, her voice calm but firm. "There's something we need to talk to you about. It's about the gift you gave to my name for her birthday." Mark's expression shifted slightly, a hint of apprehension crossing his features. "Oh, the trinket. Did she like it?" I took a deep breath and spoke up. "It's a beautiful gift, Mark. But I did some research and found out that it's worth a lot of money. Around €750, in fact." Mark's eyes widened slightly, but he quickly masked his surprise. "Really? I had no idea." Alex leaned forward, her tone more urgent now. "Mark, where did you get the trinket? We need to know the truth." For a moment, Mark looked like he was going to evade the question, but then he sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. "All right, I didn't exactly buy it. I took it from my parents' house." I felt a jolt of shock, and from the look on Alex's face, she was equally stunned. "You stole it?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and anger. "It wasn't like that," Mark said quickly. "I didn't think it was a big deal. My mom has so many antiques lying around. I thought she wouldn't miss one little trinket. I just wanted to give my name something nice for her birthday." I could hardly believe what I was hearing. "Mark, that trinket is worth a lot more than just a nice birthday gift. It has historical and sentimental value. Your mom must be worried sick about where it went." Mark looked genuinely remorseful now. "I didn't realize it was that important. I just wanted to do something special." The room fell silent for a moment as we all processed his confession. The air was thick with tension, and I could see the pain in Alex's eyes. She turned to Mark, her voice breaking. "How could you do this, Mark? You know how much we've struggled financially, and you go and take something so valuable without even telling me." Mark reached out to her, but she pulled away, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Alex. I really am. I just thought. I don't know what I thought. I messed up." I felt a mixture of anger and sympathy. Mark's actions were reckless and thoughtless, but I could see that he hadn't intended to cause harm. Still, the damage was done, and there was no easy way to fix it. The next morning, I felt a mix of apprehension and determination as I prepared to return the heirloom to Mark's mother. Alex had arranged the meeting, and I could sense her anxiety about the upcoming confrontation. We met at my apartment, where the trinket still sat on my coffee table, an object that had caused so much turmoil in such a short time. Alex and I arrived at Mark's parents' home, a quaint and well-kept house that exuded warmth and history. The front garden was meticulously maintained, with blooming flowers and a neatly trimmed hedge. It was clear that Mark's mother took great pride in her home, which only added to my guilt about the situation. We were greeted at the door by Mark's mother, Mrs. Thompson, a gracious woman in her late 50s. She had an air of dignity and kindness that immediately put me at ease, despite the circumstances. Her eyes, however, betrayed a hint of sadness and worry. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice calm but tinged with emotion. "Please, come in." We followed her into the living room, a cozy space filled with antique furniture and family photographs. It was easy to see that this was a home steeped in history and love. Mrs. Thompson gestured for us to sit on the plush sofa while she took a seat in an armchair across from us. "I understand you have something to return to me," she said gently, her eyes focused on the wrapped parcel in my hands. "Yes, Mrs. Thompson," I replied, my voice steady despite my nervousness. "This trinket belongs to you. I'm so sorry for any distress this has caused." I carefully unwrapped the item and handed it to her. She took it with reverence, her eyes welling up with tears as she examined it closely. "This belonged to my great-great-great-grandmother," she said softly, her voice breaking slightly. "It has been passed down through generations in our family. I can't thank you enough for returning it." Her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of history and sentiment. Alex and I exchanged a glance, both of us feeling the profound significance of the moment. Mrs. Thompson placed the trinket on the table beside her and took a deep breath. "Would you like some tea?" she offered, clearly trying to compose herself. We accepted, and she left the room briefly to prepare the tea. When she returned, she carried a tray with a delicate china teapot, cups, and a plate of biscuits. We each took a cup and settled back into our seats. As we sipped our tea, Mrs. Thompson began to share stories about her family and the cultural heritage tied to the heirloom. She spoke of her ancestors, their journey to this country, and the challenges they faced. Her eyes sparkled with pride as she recounted tales of resilience and strength, each story adding layers of meaning to the trinket that had caused so much trouble. Listening to her, I felt a deep sense of respect and admiration for the history she carried with her. It was clear that the trinket was more than just an object. It was a symbol of her family's legacy and identity. "I can't tell you how much this means to me," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "This heirloom is a tangible connection to my past, and having it back where it belongs is more than I could have hoped for." As we left Mrs. Thompson's home, I felt a mixture of relief and introspection. The heirloom had been returned, and in doing so, we had helped preserve a piece of history that was deeply meaningful to her and her family. But the experience had also given me much to reflect upon. I thought about the implications of the incident for my friendship with Alex. This ordeal had tested our bond in ways I hadn't anticipated. It has forced us to confront uncomfortable truths and navigate a delicate situation with care and honesty. But it also strengthened our friendship, proving that we could rely on each other in times of crisis. The incident also made me reconsider my views on trust and materialism. Trust is a fragile thing, easily broken but difficult to repair. Mark's actions had been a betrayal of that trust, not only to his mother but to Alex and me as well. It made me realize how important it is to be mindful of the impact our actions can have on others, especially those we care about. Materialism, too, took on a new meaning in light of this experience. The trinket, while valuable in monetary terms, held far greater significance because of its history and the stories it represented. It reminded me that the true value of an object often lies not in its material worth, but in the memories and connections it embodies. As I walked home, I felt a sense of closure. Returning the heirloom had been the right thing to do, and it had brought a measure of peace to all involved. The experience had been a challenging one, but it had also offered valuable lessons about integrity, respect, and the enduring power of family and friendship. In the end, I knew that this incident would stay with me for a long time, not as a source of regret, but as a reminder of the importance of doing the right thing, even when it's difficult. It had shown me the strength of my friendships, the importance of honesty, and the profound connections that tie us to our past and shape our future. The experience of receiving an unexpectedly expensive gift and the subsequent journey to uncover its origins and return it to its rightful owner taught me profound lessons about trust, integrity, and the true value of material possessions. Firstly, the incident highlighted the delicate nature of trust in relationships. Trust is a foundational element that binds friendships, romantic relationships, and familial bonds. Mark's actions, although seemingly well-intentioned, constituted a serious breach of this trust. By taking something valuable from his mother without permission and giving it to me, he not only betrayed his mother's trust but also put Alex and our friendship in a precarious position. This incident underscored that trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild, and that our actions, even when done without malice, can have far-reaching consequences on those we care about. Secondly, the situation reaffirmed the importance of integrity and honesty. When I discovered the true value of the trinket, I was faced with a dilemma. It would have been easy to ignore the implications and simply enjoy the gift, but doing so would have been morally wrong. Instead, I chose to confront the issue head-on, involving Alex and eventually Mark's mother. This decision was not easy, but it was the right thing to do. Integrity often requires us to take difficult and uncomfortable actions, but maintaining honesty and transparency is crucial for fostering genuine and lasting relationships. Moreover, this experience also made me reevaluate the concept of materialism and the true worth of objects. The trinket, while monetarily valuable, held far greater significance due to its historical and sentimental value. It was not just an expensive antique. It was a cherished family heirloom, a tangible connection to the past, and a symbol of cultural heritage. This realization helped me understand that the real value of possessions often lies in the stories and memories they carry, rather than their monetary worth. It reminded me that the most meaningful gifts are those that come from the heart and have a personal significance, rather than those that come with a hefty price tag. Finally, the ordeal reinforced the strength of my friendship with Alex. Navigating this challenging situation together showed us both that we could rely on each other in times of crisis. It proved that open communication and mutual support are essential in overcoming difficulties and maintaining strong, healthy relationships. Despite the initial shock and betrayal, our friendship emerged stronger, built on a foundation of trust and mutual respect. In conclusion, the incident with the extravagant gift served as a powerful reminder of the importance of trust, integrity, and the true value of material possessions. It taught me that honesty and transparency are crucial in maintaining healthy relationships, and that the most valuable things in life are often those that money cannot buy. This experience, though challenging, offered invaluable lessons that will guide me in my future interactions and decisions, reinforcing the significance of doing the right thing, even when it is difficult.
4 out of my 5 children are not mine, according to my recent DNA test. Nothing good comes out of a woman's silence. I apologize if this is not an appropriate sub to ask. I posted this on RR Relationships, but it was locked, and the mod suggested I ask on R Parenting. But I also want relationship advice on how to deal with my wife, so I want to ask for advice here too. First of all, I'm sorry if this ends up being long and rambly. I am not really in the best state of mind. My world has been turned upside down over the last couple of weeks. I just want to write as much context as possible so I can get the best advice needed. For obvious reasons, I am not yet comfortable talking about this with my friends/parents/siblings. Background. I met my wife when we were in high school and we married in college. We have 5 beautiful children together. Really, I consider them a total blessing regardless of what I'm about to bring up. And up until a couple of weeks ago I thought that we had the perfect marriage. We were typical high sweethearts. We go out together, we never fight. I feel like I've done everything a loving husband should do. I am saying this not to make myself out as the perfect husband. For example, my work has always meant I work long hours and maybe haven't always been there when she needed me, but I want to stress that I've never felt our marriage was in any trouble. And never in a million years would I ever have suspected my wife of being disloyal. She's always done everything she could to support me and take care of our children. Now, my eldest daughter recently had an ancestry test done. And the results of the ancestry test strongly suggested I was not her father. She confided this to me privately, showing me the results, and I could tell she was visibly upset by this. Of course, the first thing I did was reassure her that no matter what, she's my daughter and I'll always love her unconditionally. But secondly, the two of us decided to get an official paternity test since the ancestry tests are not completely reliable. It comes back and I'm indeed not her biological father. This news really broke me. I'm ashamed to say I broke down in tears in front of my daughter. The combination of finding out about my wife's infidelity and how upset I was making my daughter by how I was reacting. I really wish I'd kept it in for her sake, but I didn't. Following this, I asked my other children, except my youngest, to come and see me. I wanted to know the extent of my wife's infidelity. If it was a one-off, I could maybe work past it, especially given how long ago it would be. However, I didn't want to tell my youngest as she is still in school, a teenager, and really I didn't think it was appropriate to tell her yet. We tell the other 3 what has happened. I reassure them that I love them unconditionally and that I'll always be their dad, but that I need to know how long this has been going on. God, I can't begin to explain how touching their reaction was. They didn't care that I wasn't their biological father, they were just upset at how heartbroken I was. I feel like the only thing that has kept me going these last couple of weeks is their unwavering support. So we have paternity tests for each of the 3 done. Not only are none of them my biological children, together 4 of my children have 3 different fathers. Which somehow made it worse. It's like, she wasn't just having an ongoing affair, she was having multiple. I can't explain how this makes it worse, but it just does. So I confront my wife with this, expecting her to confess and beg for forgiveness. She doesn't confess. She doesn't even take it seriously. She says the test must be flawed. All 4. How the hell am I supposed to take that seriously? I keep bringing it up and she keeps brushing it off, getting progressively more annoyed at me. When I bring it up, she will try and guilt trip me. We've been together since high school. Do you seriously not trust me? Etc. But how am I supposed to trust her in the face of such overwhelming evidence? Now that I have rambled and explained what has happened, I guess let me ask a few direct questions for advice. How can I reassure my children this doesn't change anything between us? I feel like the way I have reacted, total breakdowns, has made them second guess this despite however many times I reassure them. How do I handle my youngest daughter? I feel like our marriage is beyond saving, and I will need to tell my daughter something. I don't want her to know the truth until she's older. But I also don't want my wife lying and making me out to be the villain. Is there any way at all, you think I could or should save my marriage? I've been with my wife my entire life. It's almost impossible to see a life without her. I know that the answer should be a clear-cut leave her, but we have 5 kids together. If there's anything that can be done to save our marriage, I want to consider it seriously. Teal Doctor, found out at least 4 of my 5 kids are not mine. Wife refuses to confess her infidelity. Unsure of how to do what's best for my children and marriage. Edit. Thanks so much to everyone for all the support and advice. I have not replied to as many comments as I should have, but I've read each and every one and taken your advice to heart. I'll continue reading any comments or messages you send me. Again, I can't begin to thank you for all your support. If this is resolved, I might post an update, but if she continues to lie, then I don't think I'll bother, as there's not much more I can add. From the advice in this and the Arch parenting thread, I've decided to get second tests just in case some freak accident has occurred. Confront my wife with all 4 of my older children present, tell my youngest of the situation. Ask her if she wants to have a paternity test. It will be entirely her decision. I'm 100% going to get some form of therapy. My mental state has really been deteriorating over the last couple of weeks, and I owe it to my kids to hold it together. Depending on whether my wife tells the truth, and what her explanation is, if any, I have not ruled out some form of counseling. But at the moment I think divorce is inevitable unless she changes her attitude drastically. Contact a lawyer and prepare for divorce, if it comes to that. Once again, I'd like to thank all of you for the time you took to express your support and share advice. Edit 2. I guess I should clarify some things that people have been asking. How did the ancestry results suggest I wasn't her father? My family is entirely Irish. No relatives outside of Ireland other than my immediate family, and I even have the stereotypical red hair. My daughter's ancestry results showed nothing from the British Isles, Western Europe, Northern Europe. That's what set off alarm bells, but it's by no means conclusive, hence the paternity tests. Which two children share the same father? My two eldest daughters share the same father. How did your wife conceive your children? Our eldest daughter was not planned. All the others were planned. Each time we conceived several months after we started trying. Our first 3 planned children were both our ideas, while she pressured me into having our youngest. She was in her late 30s and wanted one last child before it was too late, and eventually I agreed. She was conceived several months after we started trying too. Are you infertile? I don't know. I've never had a fertility test done. But the fact that none of our planned children are mine makes me think that I might be. I will have a fertility test as soon as possible. Update 1. I have received a lot of messages, comments asking about an update, and countless remind me of comments. I am unsure how they work, but I assume they are also after an update. I will post an update, but it will not be anytime soon. This entire mess will take a long time to, make any sense out of. I don't know when I will post an update, but it will be weeks from now at a minimum, if not months, but I promise it will come eventually. Once again, thanks for the tremendous support everyone has shown me. Update 2. I have been debating whether or not to post an update, because nothing was ever resolved. I decided I would post it here in case anyone is still waiting for one. I apologize for not updating early when I promised I would. My kids and I confronted their mother shortly after making that Reddit post. It really didn't go well. I think the prospect that no one believed her finally hit home, because she completely broke down and apologized profusely, but refused to explain herself, or anything that would give myself peace of mind. For the next few weeks we barely said a word to each other. I was hoping she was thinking it over, and I expected her to eventually sit me down and explain herself. I figured she was so far deep in a lie that got out of control, she needed time to think things over. Nope. I came home one evening to find she had committed suicide by overdosing. So I lost the love of my life, and I'll never know what mistakes she had made. I really wish I could go back in time and forget about it all. Whatever mistakes she made, I honestly wanted to work through it, and now I'm just riddled with guilt that I pressed her for an answer. The worst part of this entire ordeal was watching my kids work so hard to keep me together, after having lost their mother. Anyway, please tell your family you love them while you have the chance. Supervisor demands cancer-stricken student turn on camera during virtual meeting. What happens next will shock you. There are 2 important background things to know for the story. 1. I was diagnosed with a rare ovarian cancer at the beginning of this year. I had surgery and some chemo and am mostly recovered now. I still have to go in for frequent testing and occasional monitoring. I am a private person to the extent that I have dated people for years without telling my parents, so you best believe random co-workers and bosses are unaware of my medical history. 2. I attend a university that has an ambassador program. Basically, if you have a high enough GPA, you are able to interview for the program, and if you get in, they pay for your tuition during the time you are an ambassador. In exchange, you work 5 hours a week and work graduation or other events. I am one of these ambassadors. This is my story. Law and Order sound effect. My supervisor for the ambassador program, Miss M, has spent the majority of our time together belittling me. As I sit here typing about her, I find myself already exasperated thinking about reliving some of the details, so I will be short and sweet for both your sake and mine. She follows every rule to the letter and leaves no room for collaboration or discussion. As an example, we use Microsoft Teams for communication, and she has us clock in and out in a group of 20 people by saying, "I'm here," and "I'm leaving." So every day you have to scroll through dozens of messages to find anything of import and listen to notification sounds every time someone so much as takes a lunch break. I suggested using the time clock function on Teams and even offered to set it up for us, and was told that I was deliberately undermining her position. Another quick example is her vehemence when I told her I didn't have any social media to advertise the college. She was certain I was lying and went so far as to ask the other ambassadors to try and find me. They didn't. There's nothing to find. Crazy concept. I've challenged her at a couple of junctures, but ultimately realized I was fighting a losing battle and I'd be better off keeping my head down. Laughs in dramatic irony. Fast forward to 4 days ago, Friday. There's a mandatory virtual event in 3 days, Monday, where the dean of the college would talk to the ambassadors, as well as live stream the event to the college's website and YouTube page. Miss M sent out a message that I will copy and paste here, because the formatting is so dramatic that it makes me chuckle. Students must have their cameras on and phones off. Repeat, phones off, cameras on. Like, come on lady, bold, caps or italics. Your email almost gave me a stroke. I followed up the same day. Miss M, unfortunately I will be at a doctor's appointment at this time and will be unable to turn my camera on during the event. No response. I sent another email to follow up. No response. The day of the event rolls around. I directly messaged her through Microsoft Teams 10 minutes before. I see that she's seen the message with a red receipt. Nothing. Okay, video chat starts and several students join the session with their cameras on. Then the dean. He gets halfway through introducing himself and Miss M interrupts him as he takes a brief pause and says, "Excuse me, could we please have all of the students turn their cameras on?" I say nothing but put a quick message I already had typed in anticipation in the group chat. "Miss M, I have a private situation that bars me from turning on my camera. I have contacted you individually." Not but a few seconds after I send it, I get called out by name, and I respond audibly, "Miss M, I cannot turn on my camera at this time." And she responds, "Expectations were clear and you were told multiple times about this. Every other student here managed to do it and I expect the same out of you." Now, one of the cool things about having cancer is you become very familiar with the hospital staff, and if you're lucky, they're fun to talk to. During COVID, my nurses were my tethers to sanity because no one could visit me while I had inpatient infusions. So I told one of my nurses, Amy, about this situation beforehand. She joked that if I was told to turn my camera on, I should really play up my illness. In any other situation I would have been entirely opposed, but sweet revenge was in sight. When I replay it in my head I imagine that anime fist-clenching thing when the protagonist resolves to get revenge. I set my laptop back a bit further from myself on my legs so you could see the entirety of me in my hospital regalia. Teams will display the person currently talking as the largest image in chat. Everyone had their audio off except me, the dean, and Miss M, so when I turned my camera on I was displayed as the EKG loudly thrummed away, on max volume, thanks to Amy. Silence. Me. I asked Miss M through email and Teams if I could opt out of having my camera on, but she insisted. I waited a beat to see if anyone would say anything and then continued with my special vocal blend of melodramatic gratitude and illness-laden shakiness. Virtual engagement is so important for this new era of learning. I can see why having the camera on is important, though I was hoping I might be granted an exception. Dean. Miss R, you are more than welcome to turn your camera off. I am so sorry for the misunderstanding. Me. Thank you so much for making a special exception for me. It's been a difficult week but I feel grateful to be here. Then 2 people leave the call. One was Miss M and the other was Anthony, who is Miss M's boss. I didn't know he'd be there. Haven't heard from either of them yet but I'm awaiting a follow-up with anticipation. I'm typing this from the hospital and feeling gratitude for a lot of things. 'Tis the season after all. I am here, I am alive. And above all, this stupid disease won't stop me from putting a bully in their goddamn place. TLDR, I'm recovering from cancer and had to go in to be monitored for a separate but related condition. A supervisor for a school program insisted I turn on my camera for a virtual event that was live streamed, and when I turned my camera on, I could see I was very much hospitalized. Hilarity ensues. Cue sitcom music. I got fired for accidentally being an asshole to the company owner's disabled daughter. This happened on Friday. I've been drowning my sorrows all weekend, dreading the fact I have to start looking for a new job. Explaining why I got fired from my old job is going to be fun. I'm typing it up here to try and organize my thoughts in my head, because right now, it's all a mess. I had been with the company for 3 months and was still on orientation. My job was sales, advertising. As the new guy, I was given existing accounts to manage, which consisted of providing customer service and convincing my clients to spend more money on advertising. All of these accounts already had their ad campaigns done, and if they wanted something new, the account was transferred to a senior account manager who would work with our advertising guys to put something together for the customer. Eventually, I hoped to have that job, But I had to pay my dues by proving I could maintain existing accounts and convince them to spend more money first. Everything was going great, until last week, when we were scheduled to have our quarterly retreat. Since we were the main regional office in the area, all of the employees from the satellite locations came to our office for the retreat. The owner of the company rarely visits our office. He's been overseeing the setup of a new satellite office for the last year, according to my coworkers. But he was there for the retreat, as was his disabled daughter, Amy. Not her real name for the sake of privacy. One of my coworkers told me Amy works at one of the satellite offices and I probably wouldn't have much interaction with her, but I should be nice. That seemed like a no-brainer. I'm nice to everyone regardless. I won't claim to be an expert on Amy's disability, but it seemed like she had childlike mannerisms and struggled with expressing herself. She also had some problem with motor skills. I'll describe the only interaction I had with her prior to the incident. I went to refill my coffee and Amy was in front of me, getting her coffee. I watched her struggle with getting condiments added and putting the lid on, so I politely asked if she needed any help. She thanked me, said she did, and let me finish making it. While I was making it, she said she hated coffee, but her dad made her drink it because she had to, in a loud voice, always alert. I smiled, said that was definitely important and handed her the cup. She thanked me again and went back to the office her dad was using, where she had been most of the day. I felt like I had been a good Samaritan and went on my way. Most of the retreat is team-building exercises. Prior to the incident, Amy only participated in the puzzle race, where groups put puzzles together without the box art to see which team can finish faster. Amy wasn't in my group, so I didn't have any interaction with her there. Neither of our teams won. The big event, and the one that everyone seemed the most excited for, was the last activity of the day. Our boss gave us a list of potential clients. We were supposed to select 3 as a group, and put together something to attract the customer. We were told we would be judged on our creativity. My group explained that we could do pictures, slogans, jingles, whatever we wanted. Each person expected to work on one individually, then work with their group to polish it up before it was presented to everyone. It was kind of a big deal because at previous retreats, there would be clients on the list the owner was already close to bringing on board, and if you impressed the owner, you might just land that account. I went with a jingle, rhymed a few words, and recorded it. It was silly but fit the brand. My group gave me some pointers, we made some improvements, and I recorded the final product for submission. I helped my team with their projects until it was time to turn everything in. After everything was turned in, we gathered in the big conference room to critique each other. The owner went through them one by one. If it was a picture or storyboard, he'd put it up, read it, and we'd make comments. Good or bad. There were some that were great, which drew a lot of compliments, and some that were really bad, which we laughed about as a group. You could tell the senior account managers didn't care much about the exercise or put much effort into their pitches. Nobody seemed to get upset or offended, regardless of the feedback. When my jingle was played, it got a lot of comments, not all of them good, and I took the feedback with a smile. After getting my feedback, I felt a little more comfortable about sharing my thoughts on other presentations. I gave what I thought was valuable feedback to a few products, laughed at a couple others, and then a rather crude drawing was put up for the exact same company I had chosen. I immediately joked that, well, at least my jingle was better than that. Did a 3-year-old draw it? And laughed. To absolute silence. I was really confused because plenty of people had made jokes and everyone laughed. Instead, a few people looked at me like I was disgusting and the owner said, well, if you don't have anything nice to say, keep it yourself maybe? Then my boss scooted down to where I was sitting and told me I needed to go to my desk. Now, I noticed as I was gathering my things that the owner's daughter was red-faced and starting to tear up. The team-building exercise was over for me. I went back to my desk and it began to sink in that the drawing must have been drawn by the owner's daughter. There was no warning or anything. The owner didn't reveal who put together what we were looking at until after a few critiques. Maybe I should have known. Everyone was joking and having fun up to that point. Someone else had a pretty bad drawing that got laughed at. Either way, I felt awful. As soon as the event was over, I approached my boss to apologize. He told me to wait for him in his office. Long story short, I was fired. My boss said since I was still on orientation, he had decided I wasn't a good fit for the company, so it was better to let me go now. He didn't outright say I was being fired for making fun of her drawing, but that's literally the only thing that I've ever gotten in trouble for. My work, up until that point, had been praised. I didn't get much time to process it because my boss had already called security, who showed up fairly quickly, and escorted me to my desk to gather my things before escorting me out of the building. An hour later, I got a call from one of my former teammates, who asked if I wanted to join the team for a drink one last time. They needed it after the retreat and felt bad that they didn't warn me. I wasn't feeling up for it, but I wanted to try and make sense of the whole situation. So I went to the bar. In the back of my mind, I was thinking that since I'm about to start looking for a new job, a few references from former coworkers wouldn't be bad, since I definitely won't be getting one from my boss or the owner of the company after everything that happened. The team explained that Amy comes to all of these retreats, and she always does some crude drawing like that. Everyone just sort of knows to say nice things about it and move on. One of my teammates said that once you've seen one of her drawings, you know what to look for. Well, I didn't, and nobody warned me. I started to get pretty upset that this was a known thing and everyone knew but me, but what could I do? I had already fucked up and it cost me my job. The team also shared more about Amy. Apparently she works at one of the satellite offices but doesn't really do anything. The people in charge of the office try to come up with stuff for her to do because she gets upset when she's bored. The team said the way the people who worked there described it, they were basically her babysitter, so she wouldn't bother her dad all day when he spent most of his time there, and after he moved on to establish the new satellite office, he didn't take Amy with him because she liked all the friends she had at that office. They also said that her dad had harassed a few single guys at the office to take her on dates, which seemed pretty damn HR inappropriate, but he does own the company. My team said Amy desperately wants a boyfriend and wants to get married, which she talks about all the time. The consensus seemed to be that there's no way she actually understands how relationships or marriage works, and her dad probably put this idea in her head to begin with. One of my teammates did joke that it wasn't a bad deal, because whoever married her would inherit the company since she is the old man's only kid. I wasn't really in the mood for jokes at that point after losing my job over one, so I told them I needed to go. The only good thing is my former team members did say they would gladly give me a reference if I needed it, since they felt so bad about not telling me about the Amy situation to begin with. Oh, and the cherry on top. Amy sent me a Facebook friend request over the weekend. I haven't accepted it. I already upset her and it cost me my job. Part of me wants to accept it, apologize, and block her, but I'm not sure I'm ready for that either. I'm going to take a few days to get myself together and then get my resume out there. Edit. After reading all of the replies, including quite a few DMs, and talking with a close friend, I've decided that I'm going to accept the friend request. I'll do an update if there's any sort of conversation. I plan to open with an apology. If she replies, great. If she doesn't, then at least I will have a clear conscience knowing I've done the right thing. Update. If you saw my first post, you know that I got fired because I accidentally made a joke at the expense of the company owner's disabled daughter, Amy. During the last team building event of the day, we were pitching ideas for accounts, which included everything from jingles, my pitch, to storyboards to slogans to drawings. A lot of senior account managers were phoning it in and people were making jokes about their work, which had a lot of people laughing. I got some jokes about my pitch, and got a little overconfident, so when a crude drawing went up for the same account I did my jingle for, I made a joke about it. The joke was, well, at least my jingle was better than that. Did a 3-year-old draw it? My joke was met with stone-cold silence and a very negative reaction from the owner of the company. What my coworkers had failed to tell me was that Amy usually submits a crude drawing, which is a lot of work for her due to her issues, and everyone knows to say a few nice things and move on. I was new and wasn't informed, so my ignorance and inappropriate response cost me my job. After meeting with my team at a bar to begin the process of drowning my sorrows, I got a friend request from Amy on Facebook. That brings us to the update. First of all, thank you to everyone who made me laugh. The first time someone joked about me accepting the friend request, marrying Amy, and taking my revenge by inheriting the company made me uncomfortable. By the third time I saw it mentioned, I couldn't help but laugh. A lot of you gave me good advice. I appreciate those who talked about legal action and what options I had. Unfortunately, I was still on orientation with my company, which is like a probationary period. During that time, they can let me go for any reason. They could fire me for wearing the wrong color socks if they wanted. I had to sign an agreement to get employed which stated I understood this. There's literally nothing I can do, legally. At the end of the day, I decided to go have some drinks with a good friend, talk things out and see what he would do. Dave's been my best friend since we were in elementary school. We've probably spent more time together than some actual brothers. Dave was firmly on the side of accept the friend request, apologize, and clear your conscience, man. I'm getting us another round of shots. He knows me better than anyone, and he knows that the guilt would eat me alive. I posted it here because it bothered me. I decided to take his advice, and everyone here who pushed me for that as well, especially the ones that DM'd me. So that's what I did. I accepted the friend request. I immediately messaged Amy. I said I shouldn't have made that joke about anyone's work, it was unprofessional, and I was sorry. It took her a while to respond, but when she finally did, she thanked me for my apology, but said she sent me the request because she wanted to apologize since I lost my job over it. I said she didn't owe me an apology, and there was another long pause before she asked if she could copy-paste something to me. I wasn't sure what it was, but said she could. She pasted a generic message, but one she had clearly spent some time on. I don't want to type it word for word, but I'll paraphrase. Hi, my name is Amy. Please forgive me if I'm slow to respond to you. I suffered a brain injury when I was a little girl and it takes me a while to type things out. There was more to it, but that's the basic stuff. I responded, saying it was not a problem, and she could take all the time she needed. Amy and I ended up messaging back and forth until almost 3 a.m. No, we didn't fall in love. We aren't going on a date. I'm not going to marry her for revenge, so I can take her dad's company. However, I do think I would like to be friends with her. Not because I feel bad for her, but because she's a genuinely nice person and honestly, everyone could use a few friends like that. We spent a lot of time talking about her. That's just the direction it went, so I asked questions since she seemed comfortable talking about it. Amy was in a car accident when she was a kid. She was in the car with her mom and they were hit by a drunk driver, coming back from a birthday party for one of her classmates. Her mom didn't make it, and Amy suffered a brain injury that impacts her motor skills. Because it makes it difficult for her to speak and do simple things like getting dressed, making coffee, etc., people assume she's mentally challenged. She was put in special ed because of it, but worked really hard and graduated from high school. She even wanted to go to college, but her dad didn't think it was a good idea. Her life has been difficult because it's hard for her to communicate with people. By the time she can get a fully formed sentence out, the conversation is over. She can type, slowly, but most people don't want to type when they're face to face. She even admitted that when she's not at work, she will sometimes carry a tablet and pretend she's mute, because that's just easier. We eventually circled back to the drawing and my terrible response to it. She wasn't that offended by my response, because she assumed I didn't know. She got upset primarily, because she knew all hell was about to break loose and she had no way to communicate with anyone. She was so upset when she found out I got fired, and tried to talk to her dad, but he wouldn't listen to her. She's fully aware that a lot of people at the company just pretend to be nice to her because she's the owner's daughter, but she does have a few friends at the satellite office where she works who better understand her disability. She gets frustrated because she can't truly contribute anything, but is happy when they are able to find busy work for her to do. It might take her all day to do something another person could do in a couple of hours, but it's better than sitting around bored all day. She knows she's a burden and a bother to her dad when he's around, but he's her dad and she loves him. She wishes every single day she was a daughter he could be proud of, rather than a burden. She tries talking to him via emails and text messages, but he usually doesn't respond. If they're in the same location, he'll just walk over and respond verbally, which is frustrating, because it becomes a one-sided discussion with her unable to do anything but give simple one-word answers like yes or no. She also thanked me again for helping with her coffee. She said that when she was younger, she tried to do everything by herself, and would get mad when people helped her, but now she's learned to appreciate the few who do. Most just stand there and look away, pretending to patiently wait for her to do it on her own. It was getting late for both of us at that point. Really late. It takes her a long time to respond to messages. There's misspellings. I get why someone would assume she's mentally challenged. I myself referred to her in my first post as having childlike mannerisms, which was a misunderstanding on my part. When she tries to force words quickly or emphasize something, she gets really loud, which makes her sound like an excited toddler rather than an adult trying to have a conversation. We ended our talk last night agreeing to talk again sometime. She asked if I had watched the first episode of House of Dragon yet, which I have, and she asked if I'd like to talk about it after she watches it. I told her I'd love to. So that's it, that's the update. Sorry to those who expected me to steal her dad's company. I'm definitely not doing that. Talking to Amy did make me feel a lot better though. I don't know how I'm going to handle the whole firing thing at my next interview, but a few of you suggested I just leave a gap on my resume, and I may just do that. I doubt there will be any future updates, but at least this has a happier ending than my first post. TLDR, since a few asked for it in my first post. I lost my job, but I may have gained a friend. Edit, she loved House of Dragon. My husband is convinced I am pregnant. I'm not, but he won't believe me. What should I do? I'm truly at a loss here. This situation has gotten worrying and I don't know what to do with it. After about a week my husband became convinced I'm pregnant. I have no idea why because I'm not. We haven't even started trying, though we do have plans in the future. We were just making conversation and yeah, I did mention feeling tired. But that's all. A few hours later he just came in so excited. I told him I'm not, but he won't let it go. He has made remarks about how happy he is, what a wonderful mother I'll be, what our baby will be like. Not all the time, but it has come up multiple times a day. I told him I'm not. I even took a test, because even I started wondering. And it was undoubtedly negative. I showed him and he just got annoyed, said tests can be wrong. He didn't speak to me for the rest of the evening. The next morning he acted as if nothing happened. When I tell him I'm not, he just kind of shuts me out. I lost my shit yesterday when we were in bed and he put his hand on my stomach, told him he's acting crazy. I'm not pregnant and his behavior is scaring me. He went to sleep in the guest room after that and left for work early in the morning. I haven't seen him or spoken to him today. I'm just at a loss. I don't know where this obsession is coming from. I even asked him if I gained weight, if that's what's gotten him confused. He assured me I didn't. I'm thinking of contacting his parents. Or maybe a therapist or something. I honestly don't understand what's happening and I'm worried about my husband. Edit, next day. Edit. Thank you for all the replies. I didn't expect all this. It's been overwhelming and I'm incredibly grateful. He's asleep next to me right now and I keep going through all the comments. My husband is one of the kindest people I've ever met. I promise you all that he's not trying to manipulate me, or would do anything to harm me. But that does make me believe something is really wrong. I'll contact Maya and his parents in the morning, once he's left for work. Maybe go stay with my mom for a bit, though I hate the idea of leaving him like this. I also definitely will make an appointment with my doctor for a blood test. Thank you for all the advice. Relevant comments. To a longer comment addressing the fact that this could be a delusion and delusions can become violent. OOP. Oof, this reply hit me hard. I appreciate it a lot. I'm very torn. I love my husband very much and am worried about him right now, but I feel increasingly uncomfortable at home as well. Commenter, downvoted. The whole phantom pregnancy thing usually only affects women. But one supposes a guy could have it too. Obviously as time goes on and you don't produce a bump or a baby he'll recognize that you're not pregnant. But this probably isn't some profound mental illness on his part. Just the fervid wish that you could both start working on becoming parents soon. Maybe talk to him about your timeline. At 32 he's probably just more in the ready-to-be-dad phase of life than you are in the ready-to-mom phase at 26. So remind him that you've still got time. OOP, downvoted. I'll try to do that. It just feels like such a weird response to wanting a child. Commenter, replying to OOP, this is not an urgent enough response to what seems like a pretty serious delusion. This behavior isn't normal or explicable in reasonable terms. OOP. Fair, it is very unlike him. I might call my mom, ask her if I can stay with them for a bit. If only to get all of this sorted. I just want him to snap out of it. I miss my husband as I know him. Commenter, would he harm you if he thought you got an abortion? Because that's a possibility. He may accuse you of having an abortion if you get medical confirmation that you're not pregnant after he's decided that you are. OOP. I hadn't even thought of that. Sorry. Thanks for your reply, commenter. The first time I got pregnant my husband knew before I did. He had a feeling. Home test said negative but a blood test showed positive. OP. Oh my, that's wild. Either way I'll meet with my gyno, if only to have some conclusive proof that I'm not. Mini update 1 in comments. August 7th, 2024, next day after edit. Things escalated yesterday. But I'm with my mom and his parents are at our place. Update post, August 9th, 2024, 2 days later, 4 from OG post. Hi everyone, I hope it's okay I post this update. I really appreciate everyone asking if I'm safe, and I am. I wish I could give clear answers but I can't. Things escalated when I tried to speak to him, keeping some of y'all's advice in mind. I sat him down and explained to him that I'd love to have kids with him in the future but that I'm not pregnant right now, and that his insistence worries and scares me. I told him we could go to the doctor together if that would put his mind at ease, or I could take another test in front of him. I was just hoping to snap him out of it somehow. He got very agitated, said many hurtful things and accused me of being a liar many times. That I'm trying to keep our baby away from him, and so on. Nothing made sense and I wasn't feeling safe anymore. I knew my husband would never harm me in any way, but that wasn't my husband. Things got worse. He did hurt me but nothing permanent or even emergency care worthy. I also know that if he was in his right mind, he never would have done anything like this. I called mine and his parents and I'm now staying with my mom. He did seem to calm down a bit when his parents arrived. I haven't seen or spoken to him since then. His mother, she's an angel, is keeping me posted about everything. We all agree something is very off about him and we don't know what it is. But he hasn't agreed to getting himself checked out in any way. I don't know how they'll go about it, but they say, and I painfully have to agree, that it's best to keep my distance for a bit, as most of it is aimed at me. I'm safe, so is he. I miss him so much and just want an answer as to why he's being like this. I keep trying to figure out if there were signs before, or what I did wrong. Thank you all for the replies, they were a great help. It's so kind you cared to ask if I'm safe. Relevant comment. Commenter, let's pray it's not drugs, since he refuses to get checked out. I'm so sorry OP, I hope everything gets better soon. I don't know if going back to him is a good idea though, he physically hurt you. OP, I do think that whatever is causing this, is the reason he hurt. We've been together for some years now and he's never even raised his voice at me up until this. OOP responds to many commenters and thanks them. Thanks. I've been reading all the comments, you guys are all so kind to me. But I'm scared shitless about what it could be, reading everyone's experience. Mini update 2 in comments, August 11th, 2024, 2 days later. He has apparently agreed to get himself checked out, but I haven't heard anything else. Mini update 3 in comments, August 15th, 2024, 10 days from OG post. He's in the hospital, many people were right about it being a medical issue. I'll get more into it at some point, maybe, but first I need to see what's going to happen with him. I've seen him a couple of times. Sometimes he's his normal self, sometimes he can't stand the sight of me. We're managing somehow. Update post 2, August 16th, 2024, 11 days from OG post. I don't know if anyone will see this here, but you've all been so kind to keep asking whether or not we're okay. I hope I'll reach you like this. I'm going to keep this short. My husband has a brain tumor. A lot of people commented on this, and I feel an immense amount of guilt that I hadn't considered it till then. All the headaches and other symptoms, in hindsight, we had previously dismissed because of his stressful work situation and so on. I'm beating myself up that I hadn't seen it before. A wonderful team of neurosurgeons, oncologists and other physicians is figuring out the best approach here, if there is one. We'll hear more in the next few days. I've spent more time with my husband. Some moments he's his amazing self, others he's filled with anger. It's difficult, but we're managing. I wouldn't have been able to without the support of our friends and family. I love my husband. This situation is terrifying. In moments of clarity he's trying to make me laugh, so I don't worry, that's who he is. Thank you everyone for pushing me to get him checked out. Relevant comments, OOP clarifies. I'm home now, but my husband's in the hospital. Commenter, in his moments of clarity does he recognize how he's been acting? Or is there always some level of reality distortion? OOP, he seems mostly very confused, if that makes any sense. He has apologized, but his mind is just not working with him right now. Commenter, OP, this is not the first time I've seen a thread on Reddit where a brain tumor caused significant behavior changes. I hope the surgeons are able to remove it and your husband's previous personality comes back. Have the doctors given you any info on what to expect after the tumor has been removed? OOP, right now it's the question if it can be removed. There's a lot we don't know right now. The doctors and nurses have been incredibly kind though. Mother-in-law deliberately infected my daughter with chickenpox. I'm livid, she doesn't think it's a big deal. I can hardly type this out because thinking about it makes me so angry. Earlier this year my husband, 31M, and I decided to spend Christmas with his family for the first time since my daughter was born last September. Since they live 12 hours away, we decided to stay for a few weeks before Christmas so they could spend loads of time with Annie, 13 months. We arrived early like we planned and everything was great. I've had a few disagreements with my mother-in-law Trish, 56F, in the past over my parenting style. She criticized me for using disposable diapers, buying baby food from the supermarket and not raising Annie as an organic baby, but everything seemed great. After a day or two settling in, my husband and I decided to pick up a few gifts from a mall around an hour away before the last-minute rush kicked in. My father-in-law, a 60M, tagged along. Trish said she was happy to take care of Annie. We got back a few hours later and Annie was down for a nap on a blanket I didn't recognize. Trish said one of her friends dropped by and gave it as an early Christmas gift. It looked pretty old worn, but I figured one of her hippie friends was just recycling it. The next 2 weeks were fine, aside from Trish making a point to prepare meals for Annie from scratch. I mentioned this to my husband and he said to just let her be. Annie mostly mushed the food Trish gave her with her hands through the bowls on the floor, as she's been doing at the moment. Trish said it would take her a while to get used to nutritious meals. I was getting sick of her meddling, but it was only for a few weeks, so for the sake of the holidays I let it slide. The day after Christmas Annie was really unsettled and wouldn't stop fidgeting and crying. I took her temperature and she had a fever, so I kept an eye on her for the next few days and it thankfully started to go down. This morning, she started to get a rash and blisters on her arms and legs and I freaked out. I was packing a bag to drive to see a doctor when Trish asked where I was going. I told her Annie had a rash and I was taking her to see a doctor. She got a weird smug smile on her face and told me there was nothing to worry about. When I asked her what she was talking about, she said without even looking at Annie that what she had was just chickenpox. I asked her how she could possibly know that and she casually admitted one of her friend's grandkids had chickenpox a few weeks ago, so she asked them to wipe a blanket over the child's arms, legs and face and bring it to her house. At this point I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I asked if that blanket was the gift Annie was sleeping on. She said it was. I lost my shit. To be honest, I don't really remember what I said because I was up most of the night for 2 days checking on Annie. I just unleashed on Trish asking what the fuck was wrong with her. My husband and father-in-law came to try to calm things down and Trish dug in her heels and said chickenpox was the best and most natural thing for Annie to build up her immunity. I already have a vaccination schedule in place with my pediatrician and she was booked in to get immunized for chickenpox at 18 months. We drove to see the doctor and he confirmed she had it. He said I'll have to cut Annie's nails short and might have to tape socks on her hands while she sleeps because kids so young can scratch until they bleed and that will leave scars. On the drive back my husband started making excuses for Trish, that she was only doing what she thought was best. I couldn't believe he was defending her and we fought most of the way home until I told him to stop talking to me. Annie's been scratching like crazy and I just had to tape socks over her hands. Trish tried to talk to me when we got back and I told her to get out of my sight. We were meant to stay until Wednesday, but I just finished packing up our stuff so we can leave first thing in the morning. I'm so angry I can't even think. Whenever I hear Trish moving around in the kitchen my heart starts beating faster and I feel like going out there and grabbing her by the hair. I don't ever want to see her again or let my daughter see her again. What can I say to make her and my husband realize the enormity of what she's done? I don't think I can speak coherently to their faces until Annie gets better. TL.dr. Mother-in-law deliberately infected my daughter with chickenpox. I'm so angry I feel like physically harming her. I need advice on what to say to make her realize what she's done. Relevant comments. When asked why her daughter wasn't vaccinated for chickenpox, she's up to date on her vaccination schedule. She was vaccinated for measles a month ago and booked in to get the chickenpox vaccine at 18 months old, as normal. Top comments. Fruit punching. If someone did this to my child, deliberately infecting them with a disease without discussing it with me, with the malicious intent of undermining my parenting to teach me a lesson, they'd never see my child for extended periods or unsupervised again. Deleted. Your husband better step up and act like a father and stop acting like a son. Update. Thank you to everyone for your comments, inbox messages and advice after my original post. I read all the comments and messages and they genuinely helped, especially the home remedies on how to stop itching. Since my first post was locked and deleted, I hope it's okay to briefly summarize here. Over the holidays my mother-in-law Trish, 56F, deliberately infected my daughter Annie, 1F, with chickenpox by wrapping her in an infected blanket while she was left alone with her for several hours. Trish didn't tell anyone what she had done until Annie came down with a horrible fever and rash. Annie was booked in for her chickenpox vaccination at 18 months, but Trish thought what she did is 100% normal, despite the fact it's caused Annie significant pain and distress, and now scarring to her face and arms. When I found out what she did I was livid and had a shouting match with her and packed up our things to leave the very next morning. It soon came out my husband Jack didn't think Trish had done anything wrong. On to the update. I didn't think it would be possible, but things got worse. I got up first thing the next morning and started packing our stuff into the car. Once I opened it up I kept the keys in my pocket since I was going in and out. Usually we use Jack's set and leave mine in my bag. While I was packing he sat in the kitchen with Trish and my father-in-law at 60M and chatted and had coffee like nothing was wrong. Annie was mercifully still asleep so I just gently belted her in and closed her door when Jack came out and asked if I had everything. I said we were good to go as soon as he was. He said okay, and calmly took out his key set and centrally locked the car, locking Annie in. I asked him what the hell he was doing and he said we wouldn't be leaving until I apologized to Trish. I think I was stunned into silence because he then took the chance to rehash what he said the previous day. That Trish thought she was doing what was best, that chicken pox doesn't kill you, and that I was making a bigger deal out of this than I needed to and making Trish feel bad. Yes, making her feel bad. All the comments from my last post were swirling around in my head, and I told him he needs to stop being a son and start being a father. He screwed up his face and said he would always be Trish's son, and that was the point, that nobody should speak to his mother the way I had the day before, and I needed to apologize to clear the air. I felt like I had entered some kind of weird twilight zone where I had accidentally married a 9-year-old instead of an adult man, so I just asked him to open the car so we could leave. He repeatedly refused, then walked back inside and said he would see me in there when I was acting more reasonable. You can probably guess what happened next. I'd left my bag on the passenger seat, so he probably assumed my keys were in there. Nope. I waited 30 seconds, then just hopped into the car and drove away. My phone blew up with a million calls from him, Trish and my father-in-law. Eventually my mom and dad and my sister Jess, who I'm super close with, called as well. I'd briefly texted Jess about what was happening the day before, but she was stunned to get the full blow-by-blow. By the time I was on the open road, I asked her to phone Jack and tell him he could walk home for all I care. Once she heard my side of the story, and not Jack's, which was apparently that I'd gone crazy, frightened Trish, snatched Annie and sped away, she calmed down. Mom, Dad and Jess offered to start driving and meet me halfway so I could switch with one of them and wouldn't have to drive the full 12 hours by myself in one day. I was so grateful to see them I pretty much broke down in a truck stop parking lot while I blubbered that I loved them. They all took turns driving while I had a rest. It was super reassuring to talk it over and hear that Trish and Jack are the unreasonable ones. Once we got back, I stayed at my parents' overnight and they said I could stay as long as I needed. The next few days were fairly tense. I was up most of the night making sure Annie didn't scratch, which she did anyway, somehow, and it seemed like she just cried and cried and cried until she was exhausted. She has 5 scars on her face and a few others on her arms from scratching. I know appearances shouldn't matter, but I'm so angry her skin is marked for life now over some stupid bullshit. This whole thing is just something I never expected to happen. I answered one of Jack's calls only to have him start a rant that he didn't recognize this person I had become, so I hung up on him. He was due to come back for the start of the work year, which I wasn't looking forward to, but I figured we could make it work as long as Trish was 12 hours away. Then at like 11 p.m. one night I got a very short and formal text from father-in-law via Jack's phone, saying Trish had come down with shingles and was in the emergency room, that Jack was staying there to care for her, and that he would work from their house remotely once the year started back up. Jack's been there for the past few weeks tending to Mama's every whim. I'm sure she's put on an Oscar-worthy performance of having one foot in the grave, and according to Google it should be any day now that her painful, crusty pustules go gently into that sweet night. A few weeks ago I was honestly so tired and overwhelmed and in disbelief that I didn't know what to do. Now I'm back at home with people who actually care about me. I think I'm starting to realize how lucky I am to see the weird relationship with his mommy this early on. The fact that he cares more about Trish than his own daughter speaks volumes. When he eventually comes back I think we'll have to have a serious talk about our future together. TL.er, mother-in-law infects my 1-year-old with chicken pox on purpose. Husband supports his mommy. He tries to force me to apologize to her by locking our daughter in the car, but I peace out with a spare set of keys. Husband has barely spoken to me in the weeks since. Mother-in-law came down with shingles, so he's staying with her to nurse her back to health. I don't think any amount of TLC can do the same for our relationship now I've seen the real him. Woo! Top comments. Tina Pesto, he locked your daughter in the car, holy shit. And assumed you wouldn't be able to get her out. I mean, that was why he locked her in, to threaten you. Holy shit. Good on you for dipping out of there after that. Whatever happens with your marriage moving forward, you seem to have your parenting priorities straight. Good luck, and I hope Annie feels better soon. Bugs doing things. Yeah, this. He locked a sick baby in the car. Kudos to OP for handling that with a cool head because I would have lost my shit, Demonix. That is fucking terrifying behavior out of him. That poor baby is going to grow up with that as a father. Skullbearer, you only get shingles if you've had chickenpox, the new vaccine prevents it. Rather ironic. I'd get divorce papers served before Mummy Dearest decides your daughter should become a breatharian or join Scientology. The golden child brother got my fiancée pregnant. After 5 years, he is in a coma, and my mom has asked me to step in as the father for his child. 5 years ago, only a month before I, now 30, was scheduled to get married to my fiancée, I discovered she had been seeing my brother. They came clean to me about it only because she wanted to keep the baby and was pregnant. Apparently ever after Karen and I were engaged, my ex-fiancée Karen, 30F, and brother Chris, 33M, had been sleeping together. Getting engaged was certainly the next step, since Karen and I had been dating since our junior year of high school and had stayed together through college as well. Still, she chose to cheat on me with my brother once we became engaged. The only reason that ever happened was that a few days following our engagement, my brother told her he had always harbored her and felt he had to tell her since she was getting married. He was unable to tell her anything regarding these emotions thereafter. She then became aware all of a sudden that she had also been progressively developing emotions for him. She had stayed with me since she was hesitant about him, apparently even flirting behind my back occasionally at family events and other gatherings. 5 years ago, just a few months before my wedding, I got to know all these things when the two of them sat me down along with my parents and informed me they were intending on getting together. Karen was in love with Chris and they were expecting a baby together, so she could no longer wed me. That day, I was rather agitated, nearly refusing to accept it, and told Karen I wanted her to accompany me home and break this relationship, whatever it was, with Chris. But my mother made it really clear that Chris and Karen would be together and that nothing of the kind was going to happen. Since it was finally their choice, I simply had to find peace with it. That my mother was endorsing anything like this astounds me even now. At least my dad had the decency to appear ashamed and try to comfort me, but my mother openly backed this and even told me that if I objected, I could keep it to myself since Karen was pregnant and I had no right to disturb her in such a delicate state. My mother hardly cared about what I was going through, as she was simply insane over at last having a grandchild in the family. She battled with me tooth and nail to defend the behavior under question. Following the incident that day, Karen moved in with my family as her own parents stopped wanting to talk to her once she told them the truth. Obviously, we had to call off the wedding. My parents paid for it, so I wouldn't have to worry about that either. But I refused to talk to the family, hence I was kicked out. We have had absolutely zero touch over the last 5 years. My father is the only person who even cared to attempt and get in touch with me. Unfortunately, I was not interested in talking to him either, hence there has been radio silence from their end since I severed contact with them. Karen and I had been together for a very long period, hence it took me a very long time to recover what had occurred to me. I had really loved her, hence it took a lot of therapy to get over it. Even today, I wouldn't say I'm really over it, but I'm handling it. Still, the rest of the family kept in contact with me and I did learn from them that she had a son with my brother. There was no need to get in touch with her after that either, as a paternity test verified that it was my brother's child rather than mine just 1 month after she gave birth. They spent the past 5 years together and finally got married. My mother contacted me out of the blue about a week ago, which surprised me since she had been the one most in favor of Karen and Chris, like to an unhealthy degree. I had assumed everything was going well for them. Curious just a bit, I decided to contact her back when she emailed me stating she had to talk to me immediately. She cried and conveyed some quite awful news when I phoned her. I found out that my brother had suffered a quite catastrophic accident. It was a hit-and-run case, and sadly, the impact caused him to fall into a coma. The exact length of recovery is unknown. This had happened last week. Just 3 days after the physicians reported things were somewhat severe, my mother decided to give me a call to let me know about it. Initially, I assumed she would want me to see him and be there for the family. I would have been willing to comply since, in spite of all, I believe this is a major issue and it would have still been a fair expectation. I would not want to turn my back on someone in such a horrible state. Then my mother turned completely another way and declared she wanted me to be with Karen and my nephew. Then mother informed me she now expected me to be there for them in my brother's place. I had no idea what that meant either. She informed me that because Chris was essentially not even there anymore, I had to be there for Karen and her child in any manner whatsoever. When I asked her to explain, she expected me to jump in and live with them so I could look after them, not only financially. She claimed she would have taken them in herself, but she was not getting younger and caring for all of them would be too much effort. She was phoning me to let me know this, and she wanted me to decide on the call itself. I clearly lost my cool as she avoided me for 5 years and now wanted me to do something so significant when she was finally speaking to me. Although Karen and her son were all on their own right now and they needed someone to be there for them, I could see that someone from their close family would have been more suited for her than me. Someone she had betrayed and then not even tried to apologize to. Clearly, I told my mother right away that I was not going to do such a thing and that she was stupid for ever expecting me to say yes to that. Then she began fighting with me over the phone, and I had little time to spend. I immediately hung up and then blocked her once more as I was already somewhat annoyed and I wanted to not let her further sour my attitude. After that, I tried to go about my daily business, but I couldn't stop thinking about what Chris and Karen were going through. I felt terrible for them. That was really strange. Thus I clearly was not going to follow what my mother had asked me to and substitute my brother for their family. He was still alive. He had just fallen asleep, but it was not as though he had died already. She was acting as though he had disappeared. I believed that my father would be more rational than my mother, so later that day I chose to phone him instead as I was feeling very lightheaded over this whole situation. After 5 years of no contact, it was somewhat strange to chat to him. Yet after some brief conversation, I asked Chris how he was doing. Right now, he told me, things were not looking very well. Then I expected him to have some decent understanding when I told him about the earlier that day talk I had with my mother. Rather, he also added, my mother was correct to have expectations of me. That truly surprised me since, out of both my parents, my dad was always the more cool-headed one. Now even he was saying such strange things. He said that Karen and I had a history nonetheless and that I am also part of the family regardless of our former 5-year relationship. He stated he truly meant that. In the end I am blood. If someone else could stand up for the family, it should be me, and my mother's expectations are not particularly illogical. And right now I'm not sure what to do. I have been avoiding talking to anyone from my family, including my other relatives, for the past week since I am simply worried that someone would bring this up with me and subsequently I would be obliged to justify my choices. Since I'm not stepping up for my family and I know they truly need me, if not financially, then at least emotionally, I also sort of feel like the bad guy here. Simply said, I'm not sure what to do. Though I know my mother is asking of me something quite strange and illogical, I feel guilty for turning it down straight away. I just feel so strange about this whole thing. I haven't even been down to the hospital to see my brother. Since all of this is so intimate, neither have I been able to discuss this with any of my friends. Although they understand how things have been between my family and me ever since my wedding was put off, this is somewhat more unusual than that. To be honest, right now I'm sharing this on Reddit since I truly believe I need some objective advice on what to do. Whether it's friends or relatives, everyone will have some kind of biased view. I truly need guidance as, without a workable answer to all of this shortly, I fear losing my sanity. Since I discovered Karen had been cheating on me, I really feel like I'm returning to the time of my life when I was obsessing about her and Chris. I don't want to go back to that very dark period since it has taken a lot of time to get out of. Thus, whatever anyone has to say, kindly let me know so I may at least divert myself from the harshness of the opinion. So am I the expletive, for not visiting my family and supporting them following an accident involving my brother. Update 1. Hey buddies, I decided not to visit my family right now. Right now, it is quite too much for me. The things my parents were telling me alone let me realize just how severe my anxiousness had gotten over the past week. But right now I'm back on my anti-anxiety medicines and attempting to handle things. In the comments area of my initial article and even individually in my DMs, to let me know that they are there for me and that I am not alone, a lot of people have showered me with love and support which I'm extremely grateful for. Since I truly don't think I could handle all of this on my own, I have also confided in a few of my close friends about what is happening. They have also advised me to talk to them anytime I need to simply let it all out. They have also advised me that, for now, my decision to not go and meet them is the right one to make since it is the best one I could make right now for me. No matter what else people are going through in life, I have to prioritize myself. Chris and my family have always put themselves first, hence I should likewise do the same. To be honest, I hardly believe I should be there for them emotionally either. They can each handle this on their own, they have one other. After the wedding was called off and I discovered I'd been betrayed, I was the one with absolutely no one from my immediate family at my side. Though he was the one who had been in the wrong, my own parents had turned against me and had chosen my brother over me. Out of the family, he ought to have gone missing first. Still, that's only past. I'm attempting to go on from that. Should I return to them once more, I will not be able to accomplish it successfully. I have thus blocked all of them once more and will keep to my choice of not interacting with them. I truly regret what happened to my brother, but I hope he recovers quickly as, no matter what he has done, I cannot be the person wishing anything negative to happen to anyone. I thus hope things work out for them, but I am out of here. Right now, I'm just paying close attention to my own mental health. I'm thinking of returning to treatment. The way I handled this and the comments from my parents got under my skin. All those old emotions are resurfacing once more, hence I truly believe I should consult a professional since I don't think I'm handling all of this as well as I thought I was. I therefore simply now am looking out for myself. Update 2. I thus learned from a few relatives that my brother's condition is really severe and that it is not exhibiting any improvement. He still resides in the hospital. It has been almost 2 weeks. Although I feel horrible for the family as their situation is extremely terrible, there is not much I could do. Apart from myself, everyone who knows my family has dropped by the hospital to see my brother at least once in the previous 2 weeks and pay their sympathies for the horrible disaster that has happened. I would have done that, but then I also discovered via my relatives that my parents have been disparaging me to anyone who has been visiting them and projecting me as a terrible man. They seem to be telling everyone they begged me to come see them and be there for the family. But I had objected and said things like this was retribution for screwing me over 5 years back and my brother deserved this. For the record's sake, I clearly said nothing of the kind. Since I'm usually a friendly person to everyone, some of them got in touch to ask whether this was true or not since it seemed like nothing I would say. When they questioned me about it, I clearly informed them that my parents were fabricating it to make it seem like I was a horrible person, probably to get a reaction out of me or maybe simply because that's the type of people my parents are. Not that I said these things. Especially after already having screwed up my life once, I was simply quite let down that people were saying such things about me and fabricating stories only to present me as the evil guy. I'm just happy that my relatives asked me about it since, had they simply decided to trust my parents, then I doubt anyone in the family would have been speaking to me at this stage either. I had not spoken to my parents for the past 5 years, but the rest of my family, my aunts, uncles, and naturally my cousins, had been there for me. I honestly didn't want to lose that, and I suppose my parents chose to try and screw that up for me as well since they couldn't abide it. Simply said, I find it incomprehensible that people despise me so strongly. I have literally not done anything to them. Although my parents have always had a soft spot for my brother right from our youth, my brother and I have never been very close. This seems needless and overbearing. Update 3. Hi. So I posted an update 2 days ago. Today my mother decided to get in touch once more. She had nowhere else to go except pay me a visit to speak with me as I had blocked them everywhere. She was already there, waiting for me to get back home from work. Since I was simply so tired from work already, I really didn't feel like chatting to her. I almost decided I would be getting back into the car, but she noticed me and I had to go talk to her. Since it would be quite difficult to get rid of her, I chose to talk to her in the front yard instead of admitting her into my house. This proved to be quite bad for me since finally she started screaming at me, drawing the attention of the neighbors as well. The exchange began quite naturally. She just struck up a casual conversation with me and I had to respond gently. Then I couldn't help myself, so I started asking her why she had been fabricating lies about me to fit me as the evil man. I informed her that although my family had treated me like this, I had never wished anything negative to happen to them. I honestly simply wanted to go on with my life, but they were making even that incredibly difficult for me. I had been suppressing these emotions for a very long time, hence when I saw her it simply spilled out and I couldn't control myself. Ultimately, I informed her that although they had never treated me the same way and I was rather let down by their actions, I found it quite difficult to consider them as family after all that had transpired. I stated that since I had just returned home from work and was truly not in the mood to fight or talk to anyone about anything too emotionally taxing, whatever she had come to discuss could be done later. She had been listening to me patiently up until that point, but she became rather agitated when I told her I wanted not to talk to her at the moment and said she was only here to apologize for the exact same things I had mentioned. She claimed that she and my father had not been thinking clearly. They had first been somewhat offended by my response since I had refused to stand up for my family and even paid visits to my brother while he was in the hospital. I wasn't not visiting since they then understood they hadn't exactly treated me well in the prior 5 years and that I was clearly still rather offended about that. She had come to try to settle things out between us since she thought the family should stick together right now for emotional stability. She changed her plan and decided she would yell at me instead when I informed her I wanted no conversation with her. She advised me to simply be happy that I still have a family since, following the way I had responded upon learning of my brother's injury, she had half of a mind to cut me off and ensure that the rest of my relatives likewise ceased communicating with me permanently. She clarified that she thought my reaction had not been sad enough when I found out about my brother's tragedy as I did not know what she meant. Not even did I know what she had expected of me. She claimed that when I told her about my brother's accident, she expected me to at least show some feeling, but during the phone call I had just sounded quite apathetic. Clearly, regardless of our personal relationships, some news like that was absolutely going to impact me and it has indeed. As I said before, I do not wish it onto anyone. This includes my family even with our close ties. I was therefore quite offended learning about his accident. Perhaps that had not shown up on the phone call since she could not see my face, but her arguments were simply wholly unfounded and irrational. She even said that my brother's absence for Karen and my nephew had shown how little I valued the family, as I had not been there for them. She was only fabricating once more to support their behavior. Since these things are utterly strange and pointless, I truly believe that my parents have started to lose their minds. She started screaming at me, thus I lost even more interest in talking to her and chose to hide inside my house. I thus unlocked the entrance to my house after some time and entered while she was still screaming at me. She followed me inside, but I closed the door in her face and advised her to leave since I was really offended and wanted no further interaction with her. She battled with me, but I told her I would call the police. That's when she finally departed, but not before berating me out and declaring I would shortly suffer consequences. I'm not even curious about learning what that implies. I have no idea what that entails. I simply want to unwind and go on living. Update 4. Hi there, following the accident 26 days ago, my family at last received some positive news to deliver today to all. They obviously did not personally inform me about it. I learned about it from my cousins. The good news is that my brother is at last displaying some progress. That's a positive indication since he is reacting better and out of a coma is not. Though I'm not really regarded as part of the family anymore and have been thrown out long ago, the last month has been rather trying for everyone in the family, including myself, so I truly hope he can make it and that he only improves from here forward. My parents have truly proven to me that they are unhinged in the way they have been following my life throughout the past 26 days. They were simply venting their anger on me. Following my last conversation with my mother, which I discussed in my last update, I did not hear from her for a few days. Then though, my father called me up to scream at me instead. I cannot tell it was him as he used a different number from the one he typically uses. He started screaming at me practically right away when I answered the call, so I wouldn't even have a chance to hang up when I discovered it was him. He was rather cunning about it too. He aimed to surprise me so he could yell at me. My brain would be all muddled instead of phoning me at any regular time during the day. He decided to contact me at 5 in the morning when he knew I would be sleeping and would have to get woken up to answer his call. A few days after my conversation with my mother, my dad contacted me at 5 o'clock in the morning. Following almost 3 phone calls, I at last answered the 4th one. He began screaming at me right away about what an unappreciative child I was and how he wanted I never to have been born. I was a horrible human being for not even bothering to come see my brother in the hospital when he was suffering so much, and for not being there for the family, he claimed. Thus he said he was going to make sure the rest of the family never spoke to me again. I was still processing everything, thus he was the one who hung up after raving for about 5 minutes. By the time I finished with everything, he had hung the phone and banned me. It wasn't very hilarious at the time it happened, but now I find it really humorous since my parents are simply so determined to make me appear like a bad guy and yell at me for pointless actions. For these exact reasons, they are ready to go out of their way into such extremities. As usual, I had to be there for the family. I have already mentioned that I think they were venting their frustrations on me. They just wanted a scapegoat. However, it's okay as my father failed in convincing the rest of the family against me since they know I'm not guilty and they also know what happened 5 years ago. Still, I simply hope they get off my back and concentrate on my brother since his condition is getting better. Update 5. Hi, returning here after almost 3 years seems somewhat strange. Since then, a lot has transpired, generally for the better. Right now I'm in Germany working. Having been here for the past year and a half, I have also started seeing someone. It's been lovely, truly. My girlfriend and I have been together for the past 8 months. If I'm being honest, I have had absolutely zero contact with my family for the past 3 years. That has also been delightful. To be different, I have stayed in touch with my good relatives. Right now, my brother is totally well. He survived the crash, and although it took him some time to recover, he is doing great right now. After my brother had begun to recover, Karen came over to me to apologize for all that had past transpired. But I just told her at this moment an apology was not necessary. After everyone realized I was heading to Germany for business, she came to see me with a bouquet to apologize on behalf of her and my brother. Though he was too embarrassed of the events 8 years ago, my brother could not come see me. Honestly, it made little difference now. I thus simply informed them I forgave them and showed no further care. And that was true. I was on better things, moving on with my life, so I did not really care. I have been here since then. My parents no longer interact with me and I'm quite glad about this as I would never let that ever happen once more under any conditions. Now I'm at last content. Anyway, I must get back to my life now that you people are all caught up. Thank you so very much to the folks who showed me so much love and care when I was publishing here and also kept asking about me in the comments and everything long after I had stopped publishing. Caught my cheating wife at a secret hotel. My wife was surprised when I gave her divorce papers in the hotel lobby. Hello everyone, I hope each of you is doing great. I am writing on my phone, hence apologies for any mistakes. This is a rather long and disorganized tale. I have nowhere to negotiate this problem as I have run out of my rope. Little background. My SO is 40 and I am 43. Married for 16 years, we have 2 children, a 9-year-old boy and a 14-year-old daughter. At first, our marriage was somewhat turbulent, but we worked through those difficult years and came out much different. We married young, hence maturity wasn't completely there yet. Nevertheless, we knew we loved each other and could overcome any challenge standing between our marriage. Whether this was wishful thinking still remains a question. Still, I have been in engineering for 7 years while my wife has worked for 3 years as a manager in a very large advertising agency. Our careers pay nicely and have given our family a quite nice way of life. We were a rather close family. As parents, we always made sure our children could create wonderful memories. We always found time for our children no matter how busy we became. To be honest, I think I'm a decent husband and dad. When it came to my wife, I occasionally messed up. But I did everything for this woman, and it really shook me to my very core to learn she was having a long-term affair. Which leads me to the revelation. My wife was acting far away. Actually, the last 2 years preceding this one were the toughest. She just seemed to enjoy nothing I did. Yes, I know now. She would constantly tell me how her boss would handle this or that and continually contrasting me with her employer. Not able to grasp her mind. She can, however, ask her supervisor. Make her feel unique and avoid starting the initiative to take her on dates. Her supervisor does that for his wife though. Why was my immaturity so extreme? I would want to know how she wanted me to liven up our marriage. Her usual response was, "Don't ask, you need to already know and do it." So since I knew nothing, I investigated and bought books, anything. The response has to come from someone else. Everything I tried was greeted with either half-hearted thanks or bitter disappointment. In the years I have known her, my wife was never like this, therefore I felt that my failure to make her happy was something I really had to address. Little did I know, the entire time the repairing was being done by someone else. We were really close to her employer and his wife. They have children as well. The children adored one another. We brought them to our family trips to the park, barbecues, arcade gaming days. We have gone to theirs and they have visited our place many times. Not surprising that we grew close. When I told her boss about our marriage issues, he offered wise counsel. He seemed to be a great man. Still back to the discovery though. The demands of my wife to better myself where the marriage was concerned had emotionally worn me out. Her attitude really surprised me since, up until now, I had felt our marriage was wonderful. She was thus busy chuckling and laughing one night while messaging someone. Curious, I was also next to her in bed. She fiercely pushed away from me the instant I leaned to get a look. She asked me right away what I was doing, furious. She withdrew to the restroom when I told her I wanted to find out what the joke was and she said it was none of my business. That is the day I realized, deep down, that there was an affair of sorts underway. Though I lacked evidence as well. The next day I asked her straightforwardly, making a mistake. She was enraged and claimed no guilt. I wanted the truth badly even if I lacked access to her phone. She balked when I asked for her phone. She handed me the phone hesitantly only later in the evening. She deleted almost every text message she sent to particular individuals. I could tell since some of the exchanges sounded contradictory and others seemed absolutely ludicrous. I returned the phone to her, and we didn't talk about it until a month later when I got a friend to check the phone and retrieve erased texts. My wife had received another phone earlier and seldom used the one she handed me. Some books were found, and it was via bits and pieces that I at last found evidence of an affair underway. And you already figured it out, with her supervisor. I waited since I knew she would find some way to wiggle out of it if I addressed her then and there. But I was a wreck too. My only thought was on how it would impact the children. The scenario was terrible. I started crying in front of my friend. 3 days later I ordered How to Help Your Spouse Heal from an Affair, still not ready to give up the marriage. If you are shaking your head, it is okay. I began reading, expecting that if I showed my wife, she would stop this crap. I wanted the marriage saved and my wife back off. She had told me they had an emergency at work and not to wait for her, so I had intended to chat to her on that Saturday to sort things out. Of course, I called the office on the day to verify the narrative she told me and got no response. Saturdays are not open. I tried her phone but there was no response. On Sunday, around 2 in the morning, she returned home, showered right away and went to bed. When I questioned her about her late arrival, she sidestepped the inquiry by claiming she had already advised me not to wait for her. I was tired of this. I left her the book I purchased absent-minded. She did not care. I was hurting. She didn't care when she saw me in agony. To find out, I asked the wife of her boss whether she knew anything. I still don't regret doing it since I was so yearning for stability. Finding out startled her as much as it did me. She wanted to face her husband, but I advised her he would most likely lie and try to cover it like my wife did. We got together at her residence to go over what was happening, and I handed her the meager evidence we had. She needed further proof, hence we both set out to compile data on our respective sides and then compare them. Starting to spy more on my wife, she followed suit with her husband. She found clear evidence quite easily on her end. Her husband was so conceited that he omitted deleting the texts on his phone between him and my wife. The small notes I'd discovered earlier at last made sense, and we now knew 2 years had been the duration of the affair. I was enraged, just as the wife of the employer was. I wanted retribution on them as well as she did. Everywhere they slept, her house, my house, fancy hotels, business travels. Reading all that made one queasy. They even emailed each other pictures, but we decided to overlook them since we wanted not to damage ourselves with the pictures. Though not an affair ourselves, we sought retribution. We both resolved that they could have each other if they so desired. About the same time, we each gathered divorce paperwork. We were dead set on it. We acted our part. Our husbands were unaware of what we knew. Our ducks were back then in a row, once more. This time, working with the wife of the boss, we knew exactly where and how they would be received. We knew the motel they had reserved for their good weekend. I visited there together with the sheriff. While the sheriff arranged everything, I waited in the lobby. My wife was called to come down from her room. She dropped down wearing a bathrobe and, I worry, nothing else. She was terrified and asked me furiously what I was doing there. Though not too distant, it was rather a distance from our house. The sheriff wanted her name and details confirmed. She responded ambiguously in the affirmative and was served. Seeing the startled expression on her face was quite fulfilling, but I chose to leave knowing the job was done as I did not want to bring it under discussion. She held my arm, dragged me back and insisted on knowing what the meaning of this was not letting me. You had an affair, I told her, and I'm leaving you, simplified. She began shouting at me then grabbed my arm firmly. The sheriff had to intervene and order her to release me immediately. She told me she could explain, that I had the wrong notion, and that it was my fault. She started crying. I left fast to get home since I was getting enraged. When my wife told her boss, he fretted. According to what I was told, he hurried home only to find himself served. We gave them no time to straighten their heads. We blindsided them exactly as they did us. While hers might take some more time, my divorce will be finalized in a few months. On the divorces, both my wife and her supervisor have been battling us. Neither want to file for divorce. The reasons I have heard are that they never meant to leave their husbands, that it was only a purely sexual affair and nothing more, that people have worse indiscretions and still come out with a fantastic marriage, that they messed up and would like a chance to right things. What, I asked my wife, do you suppose the result of all this is? She said she is not that person anymore and said she was following the flow and behaved totally against nature. She is a moron, I told her. For not giving my wife another chance, others around me are labeling me horrible. Though they would want it if we stayed together, my children know what is going on, age appropriate, and they are backing me 100%. We still reside in the same house, hence my resolve is weakening along with the fact that my wife is reading the book I purchased and attending therapy. It's becoming more difficult to keep to my guns. She claims to be sorry and will perform all necessary actions. All I need to know is that she is sorry she got caught. She has labeled me as a sour, angry person unable to go past all the negativity. Later she apologizes for it, but I know that's how she feels. I still speak with the boss's wife, and my wife completely detests it. She believes the boss's wife is the reason I won't be giving us another chance or that I will be having a vengeance affair. Like she did with her boss, she has insisted on my starting no communication with the wife of the boss. She is nuts, I told her. We did nothing illegal, why should I now accept her points of view? See, I believe I've finished. I respect nothing about her. She is still not ready to give up and is actively interacting with me about her ideas and procedures concerning the affair. I find them as justifications, hence I ignore her. She asks me to accompany her for therapy. I was thinking, hell no, as I have seen in numerous instances where the therapist blames the victim. She wants me to read books about infidelity with her. Given that we are likely to divorce regardless, what good is this? She is close-minded. She would not be able to control me with sex, I informed her. She says she just wants to show me how much she loves me and it's not manipulation. Correcting her, I responded, "Love me now, you mean?" People around me, including my mother, are annoyed with me as they believe that mistakes are inevitable and my wife understands from her errors that she really loves me. I assured others I would never be someone's backup plan. Treating her the way I do makes me terribly guilty. Though there is hate involved, I still love her. Am I treating her unduly cruelly? She is trying quite hard, but I have no interest. Should I go back over the divorce? People say I should slow down. I shall regret it. I am moving too quickly. Yes, that is accurate. I'm not sure what is actual from what is not. Edit. I appreciate all of you spending time to answer my predicament. After reading all of your comments, some of you address some really pertinent issues. I will talk with my wife right now. Though I will keep you informed, I believe divorce is the best path for my children and myself. Reading from here has been beneficial. Update for the narrative. Alright, I'm back once more. I'm trying a second time since I have been receiving emails requesting an update. Appreciate your concern, folks. I would want to clear certain things since I can see your curiosity. First of all, right now my wife and I find ourselves in a type of decent state. Not because we are reconciling. No, I am still divorcing her. Taken down by the automat, the previous update I uploaded thoroughly described our circumstances. The brief story is that my wife is still hankering after another opportunity and is acting accordingly to acquire it. I won't give it to her as her affair was far too long for me to recover. Should it have been a one-night stand, the narrative might have been different, but 2 years is simply a slap on the face. I love her still and am not a monster, hence I have attended a few therapy sessions with her. One session was really excellent and let me see that my wife really regrets it. She has been trying pretty darn hard, but she has not been flawless in how she managed the aftermath from her affair. Her anger at me for constantly contacting the boss's wife and her fear of a vengeance affair made the second session a catastrophe. We argued a lot later since I refused to do what she requested, which was no communication with the boss's wife, therefore it was the angriest I had ever gone through this whole situation. That was settled after I assured her there wouldn't be a vengeance affair. Though I know I owe her nothing, she is still my wife until our divorce, hence I still want to keep my word. I have been visiting a couple of more meetings with her merely to observe her improvement. This therapist is indeed an individual and marriage therapist. I'm not attending these meetings since, deep down I want to save our marriage. If only I could watch my wife's development personally and help if necessary. I'll gracefully step away following the divorce. Still leaving her husband is the wife of the boss. Her husband is still contesting her on the divorce. She is as strong as I am, and I will say we do have low days with each other. We are only cordial with each other. I still see no affair taking place. She is a strong, self-reliable woman who does not, anyone. Right now my children are good. They understand that we love them no less simply because we are divorcing. Although they encourage us not to divorce, they see why it's right for our age. My wife works somewhere instead of the advertising company now. She quit not too long after I visited her. She claims to have kept absolutely no contact with her previous supervisor. She applied that advice and sought assistance on saving the marriage on forums. After seeing my wife work her butt out to be a better person, I can see the appeal even though initially I didn't understand why people stayed with adulterers. She's not a monster. She's simply flawed and made terrible decisions from which she is learning improvement. She has extended to me everything under the sun to give another go. Not sure I have it in me either. I feel more at peace the closer a final divorce seems to be. She recently begged to have a chance following divorce, and we had a lengthy conversation about this. She has extended a postnup offer. Although I wasn't totally against it, it would be a somewhat long road for her to travel for me to even consider as an option. She seems really eager, but honestly I don't see how that would help any of us. Mostly driven by a momentary feeling of justice, I want this divorce. Without compromising myself to the level of an adultery, this is the only justice I can obtain. After I told more about my wife's affair, my mother and I made up. Today, she's rather angry with my wife after finding out the specifics. I'm not sure how I would negotiate one. Rant. Affair for revenge? Alright, I wanted not to write here until my divorce was finalized, but right now I'm just annoyed and really want to rant. Like many of you, my wife is terrified about a revenge affair. The straightforward explanation is that I still get in touch with and see the other woman I betrayed. Against the other betrayed partner, my wife feels somewhat insecure. Is that how it is spelled? Younger, a model, quite beautiful, and runs a profitable company as the other deceived partner. It makes my wife suspicious that I would yield to temptation and cheat on her in return. The nerve of her to deliver me the two wrongs don't make a right lecture still astounds me. She isn't wrong, of course, and I never intend to follow through. Still, her hypocrisy bothers me. Like yesterday, every time I visit the other betrayed husband, my wife becomes somewhat depressed or very clingy. She has thrown herself at me several times to make sure I do not cheat on her back, but I'm not sure how many. Her advances are turned down, and that further aggravates things. The deceived have to struggle along and try to pick up the pieces while cheaters are thus selfish, just thinking about themselves and their suffering. Besides, our children still see their children. Although I never go to the other betrayed partner without my children, my wife still believes I have it in me to be as merciless as she was and sees every chance to attack the lady. Laughable, expletive. OM is still residing in their vacation house and begs the other betrayed partner to bring him back. I am not going to lie, seeing him suffer the repercussions makes me very happy. Given my degree of leverage on him, he has not tried threatening me. He has to cope with my ongoing communication with his wife. He makes sure I'm not around when he visits since he is allowed to see his kids whenever he wants but does not want to see me. To be honest, I pity the man. My wife has been really contrite lately. She has lavished me with love, which I just push aside. I'm not in a good frame of mind. Today is our therapy session. I feel like releasing all the suffering and hurt I have gone through thanks to her. My anger has become intolerable. Update. Well, here I am checking in. Not especially fresh to report to you folks. Only a few things have evolved though. Reviewing my conversations and postings helped me to see how wonderful this location is for helping people just like us. To help me to see my circumstances better, I have been reading a lot of material about infidelity. Still, during a recent therapy appointment with my wife, she asked that I give her a little more time to win me back. She had reason after reason why it would be a good idea for me to at least try and see if I could assist in restoring our marriage, not quite reconciliation yet. I kept bringing up the fact that her primary motivation was the fallout from her affair. She wouldn't be trying if she still saw OM. For months she emotionally mistreated me. I'm not the kind of person to be walked all over, even by the woman I loved. She owned all of her mistakes and once more apologized. She has promised me so much of making it up to me. She believes it is possible and wants our marriage to be stronger than it has ever been. Having plenty to spare, I asked her whether she would be ready to tolerate my wrath. She was like, absolutely. And she would like me to dump on her anytime I feel like it to help me process the grief. Usually, I got a million excuses when I questioned her why she had an affair. She was honest this time, telling me there was no justification for what she did and that she would spend every day for the rest of her life demonstrating to me by her actions that she was really regretful and would never hurt me that way again. She genuinely dumped emotions onto me, and it helped me to realize that she truly was rather insecure about herself and envious of the other betrayed partner. Her ego shot skyward from the affair. She loved feeling beautiful and wanted. She would never last and admitted the encounter was most certainly a fantasy. She considered the ramifications from time to time but scarcely gave them any thought overall. She regrets having the affair and claims she will live with this guilt the rest of her life. She most likely will never forgive herself. She informed me she could never hold a candle to the other betrayed spouse, and the reason she was so sure I would cheat again was because the other betrayed spouse is not only gorgeous but also a lady with integrity. Not once has the other betrayed partner ever threatened her or behaved meanly toward her. It was all my wife's fears, and maybe the fact I was furious with her for turning on me. It gets fascinating here. The therapist asked me what it would take for me to give my wife's offer some thought. Not one thought came to me. Since what I presently have is a fake of a marriage and I never signed up for it, I was honest and told her, a time machine. She informed me that every marriage deals with issues ranging from death to adultery. How those issues are handled reveals the resilience of a marriage. I told the therapist to concentrate on my wife instead of us as I really couldn't believe where this talk was leading. The therapist advised me that my incapacity to pay attention to logical arguments could be a communication-wise issue. I agreed not to disagree. During the journey home, my wife and I had a long conversation. She asked whether her affair had made me feel emasculated. Given she had never asked me that prior, the question really caught me off guard. Sure, I said. She startled me by wondering if sleeping with another woman would make me feel better. I reminded her once more that I am not, nor will I ever be, a vengeful lover. She clarified that she was referring to a trial separation whereby I would go get my mojo returned. She will stay true and wait till I'm good and ready to return to the marriage. Before, I felt she was desperate, but her idea seemed insane. I questioned her how that would help the marriage in any form so that both partners can be having affairs. She informed me it would not be an affair as we would be separated under conditions allowing my freedom to see other people. She answered that we were divorcing anyhow, so if this doesn't help us, At least I could see what the outside world has to offer. I told her that is a great risk on her behalf. She appeared completely out of character to suggest it, hence I clearly rejected the proposal. For the past few weeks, my wife has been remarkably quiet and patient. She is unlike the wild, insecure one I used to know. Naturally, I should not trust her for my personal benefit. It is quite challenging though. She has been really giving in the divorce, even if she doesn't want it. Though not my case, I have read so many stories of divorces turning acrimonious. Being in this state is rather surreal. It is challenging to negotiate. Edit. Let me also make clear, I am still completely going with the divorce. Hearing people's impressions of this interests me. Edit. Back once again. Hello to each of you. I have another update on this sorry condition of my life. I want to thank the people who keep contacting me in support before I get into that. My wife and I have thus decided to be courteous now and celebrate the holidays as a family. Though my wife is still hoping otherwise, this will be the final holiday ever observed. This was for the benefit of our children. I have loving children. Our divorce will be official midway through February. For those of you who are interested, we have shared everything half and half, although she has been quite giving on her side. She might become nasty later, but so far she has been good and tells me it's because I have been a terrific husband and parent. She feels I should get more than a fair divorce considering all she has done. Still don't know whether it's a technique. Though I do gain somewhat more thanks to her, that is not to imply she will lose a lot out of the divorce. I have chosen to cease attending sessions with her. It was confusing her and offering false hope. She has said that she has a strong desire to be close to me all the time and that her affair made me feel emasculated and unwanted. She has been attempting to have sex with me rather often, and I mean quite often. To be honest, my wife seldom started sex before all of this, so I felt a little offended that she was doing it now. I came to value her seeing this as a hang-up of mine and her desire to fix it over time. Though I have turned her down, she continues fiercely claiming that this has nothing to do with reconciliation and that she only wants me to feel good and desired. For now, I have shut off communication with the other betrayed partner since things were becoming somewhat too personal for my taste. I suppose you were not far off when the person mentioned I was having a vengeance affair. It wasn't even anything I knew till the other betrayed partner admitted she wanted to try and see where our relationship would develop. She said she would wait to start anything until my divorce was official. We have agreed to take a vacation from each other till everything is settled, as I was somewhat perplexed and had no explanation for her. The second betrayed partner is a beautiful woman, but I'm not sure whether I could make her feelings back off. I have very little idea how to manage that. Someone suggested that her future reconciliation with her husband is being hampered by being near the other betrayed partner. I guarantee you that nothing I do relates to her choosing to leave OM. She is done with him and that is all. When we are together, we do not discuss our spouses negatively. OM personally visited me lately to atone for all that happened. He was usually an arrogant man, hence this event really helped him to grow humble. His apologies did not sit with me. Though I wouldn't say expletive about what he is going through, call me petty. Is it alright for me to have sex with my wife even if we are not getting along? I do admit I miss having sex. I sorely miss the closeness and intimacy of it all. New lingerie, sexting, touching, letters, etc. My wife is eager and has been trying everything possible to start it, and sometimes I find it difficult to resist. Honestly, I just didn't care to know exactly where they had sex, so she even threw away, destroyed, and replaced everything that had to do with OM at my house without my asking her to. Switching off these emotions is difficult for me. Is this a catch-up? Am I the one being played? I wanted her here as it's less of a hassle until the divorce is finalized. Before someone says kick her out of the house, I've already tried that. Rant. At last I understand it. Though she was nothing but worthless, I felt I squandered all these years on a woman. Nevertheless, she produced wonderful memories and children. As a man, these things I will never forget and value greatly. I am going to do better than her though, and at last I realize I am better than her. People have come flooding in offering me guidance on how to handle this. I realize at last that I am deserving of better than her. She twisted me over, put me down, and made me feel less than when another man paid her any attention. She actually gave another man her all. It still shocks me that I'm at last realizing I am over her. She only now does all it takes to maintain me. She is now focusing her effort on us. She used to not care, however now she wants me to be happy. She now desires to be this daring sex partner for me. Though it was never amazing, I enjoyed our sex. I can now clearly see what I have missed. Her writings with OM let me know only the surface of the graphic nature of their trysts. Now, Despite her past relative slowness, she wants to show me just how much she loves me. The lethargic sex tells volumes to me. While earlier it was all about giving her attention and providing for her at the same time, now she gives me space and is pleased and supportive of all I do. She now respects my bounds and surpasses them to add more. She now views me as the king I wanted her to see, but no. First I had to smother her off her pedestal first. She is the perfect woman right now, yet it seems transitory to me. She now tells me everything exactly, very open. She is quite honest as well, even if it may make her embarrassed or offended. Before, I don't believe I have ever seen any woman looking constantly ashamed on her face. She wishes this affair never had a place. She kicks herself quite a bit every day. When I am simply not responsive to anything she does, I can see the desperation on her face. She tries to cover it, but she seems so unhappy. Though occasionally I detest myself, to me it's necessary. Why cannot I consider this as a good thing? Why cannot I criticize her now for her actions? They exhibit regret, right? Many have LTAs and come out even more powerful than before. Why am I making decisions based more on feeling than on a point of mature objectification? While I enter another dubious relationship, someone else will end up receiving the better and upgraded version of her. When everything seems to lead to something decent for the future, why not strive for this? These are the lines I have been handed. My response is that I will not tolerate disrespect. Perhaps I was eager in the early phases of research, but I woke up from that fast. This is to respond to those who have routinely asked about my position and messaged me. This Christmas I will be spending it with my whole family and then moving away from my wife. To retain my wife's grip over me and go totally from the concept of her, I resolved to cease listening to the garbage I produced in my thoughts. Neither will I be giving us another shot nor dating her. We are done for good. My wife is not a villain, and that is the truth. She should be happy too, but it will never be with me. She has personally shown me that. When I absolutely hit rock bottom, I phoned the other betrayed partner today and promised her supper after the holidays for her support. She mentioned she would really like it. Although I know this isn't common, we truly helped each other all through this and I owe her thanks. I really didn't know before people started discussing how much I intended this with OBS. For the past few years, my feelings have been so twisted that the whole idea of another lady never crossed my head. And dinner is it, nothing else unless both of us really want it. But the closer the divorce approaches, the more I see I really have choices. One such alternative has been right there. Regarding OM, I have nothing to say about the man. Not a flying expletive. I will inform any woman as I do not believe I will marry once more. Though my divorce has not been particularly difficult, I am nonetheless losing a lot of money. Today, the whole concept of marriage seems to be a hoax. I apologize for just now being so cynical. Though I'm jaded, I want this essay not to insult anyone. I realized how little I got back after giving this lady my best years. Happy holidays, you won't be seeing me for some time. Update, formally divorced. It has been long since I expected. I did say earlier that I will be returning here for the final update. That ends. Formally, my ex and I have split ways permanently. It happened around 3 weeks ago. For the better part of several days following the event I mourned as though I had lost a loved one. That my marriage failed so spectacularly really affected me rather strongly. Ever since I initially found out about the affair, I never shed tears that strong. I also railed a lot, most likely one of my lowest points. Everything has been set up for my ex, partly on my behalf for the children. She left the house, I am attempting to buy her out of her portion of it. She currently resides in an apartment, a somewhat large downsize for her, and it basically makes her depressed. She still visits the therapist and remains committed to reading and researching infidelity. Not exactly sure why. With little physical touch, we have had long chats both before and following the divorce. She is the mother of my children, hence even if I know I shouldn't be entertaining her right now, we should be decent co-parents. Thanks in great part to this group and others, I am nothing except logical about the matter. Of course, it's the same song. She wants to reconcile, and I believe it would be too dangerous for me to put myself in the same circumstances once more. I regret not feeling the right mood to present her the gift. I went to supper with the other betrayed partner this past weekend solely for companionship and conversation. We covered a lot of ground. Things grew flirtatious between us, and I have to say I was somewhat hesitant to welcome the fast-shifting mood. I suppose I should say that the evening concluded with quite fervent intensity. I'm sorry for the TMI. Most likely, the most amazing sex I have ever experienced. OBS is quite much a giver, spades above my ex. Although I had no intention of it going that far, the other betrayed partner was eager and I too was. Learned quite a few more LOL tricks in the sack. First time I had someone that was eager to satisfy me rather than the other way around. She divorced her ex, thus I guess I shouldn't call her the other betrayed spouse anymore, but for privacy's sake I will just use that. To be honest, I do not see us advancing our relationship. That evening, I suppose the hormones and booze got the best of us. Though I'm not sure she would want to. I believe she also helps me to arrange myself emotionally. Still, I feel really terrific. Although this may not be what people want to hear, the sex I had with the other betrayed partner greatly helped with my remaining self-esteem problems. Desired, living, and at last I knew what I was missing. I will never accept artificial sex once more. Knowing that I did not lose my morals and was not cheating made me more fulfilled. All things considered, I'm really pleased with how I handled all this mess. Though not flawless, I did the best I could. Though I did lose a lot of money in this process, I am most likely coming out really lucky compared to many BHS. But it was because I was ready to listen to those with knowledge rather than mindlessly wishing for the best. I will thus be eternally appreciative of you people. You and everyone who listened to me helped me to avoid even further losing my value. Summary. Respect you. Never, never tolerate disrespect from anyone else, not even from individuals closest to you. Everybody is entitled to a happy, contented relationship. Never accept your partner's leftovers. Every committed partnership should feature a satisfying and healthy sexual life. Do not accept it if your partner is not giving you their all but did so in an affair or before with someone else. Just state your discontent. I am not encouraging rape or sexual abuse. If your spouse is not ready to meet your desires, do not settle for dull sex unless both of you agree. One can walk away from that without trouble. Share, interact, share. I cannot underline how very vital that is. Should you ever be betrayed, only you can really recover? I needed a long time to grasp this. Though that's all I can currently think of, there are many more. I'll be here to respond to your comments, but I'm done blogging here permanently and moving on with my life in around a few hours from now. Have a nice one, everyone. Right now, things are good. Update. Hey folks, people wanting to find out how my issue is going have been flooding me with emails. I still get triggered here and there, hence I have been deliberately avoiding everything involving adultery. Having this in mind, I am still working through the trauma. I try not to dwell too much on it, hence I've been absent from this site and others in order to move on. But given so many people are worried about me, I will reassure you and provide an update. I'm good, no mishaps, no poof, I'm off the face of the earth. I'm still in IC and my girlfriend is the other betrayed partner. With regard to child custody and money, she resolved her matter with OM. She should have handled that sensibly instead of being vindictive and dragging him to the cleaners. The children do have some conflict over all this, and we are working as well as we can to handle it. We have to start therapy for them to ensure they appropriately adjust and realize that their relationship with the other betrayed partner has minimal influence on them. Still, we do take them into account when it comes to the way this is handled. Not everyone is on board, hence this is really difficult. OM, my ex and my daughter do not enjoy being around each other. I'm not joking here. There's conflict when those two are near one another. I really believe both of them blame the other for how things turned out. My ex still wants a second chance and is most likely offended that the other betrayed partner stands in the path of me seeing things clearly and not tossing away what we have eternally. This woman is so misled, her antics really concern me. She tried something at a friend's 4th of July celebration. I closed it, although I suppose it was not sufficiently strong. Though you guys were right, she wants to come crawling back in a bad way. I did not believe the individuals claiming she would be pining for me. The other betrayed partner is letting me handle that. But she's also becoming sick of my ex too. Did I mention my ex's passionate loathing of the other betrayed partner? Ever since I left her for someone else, my ex has been a train wreck. But I truly thought she was improving herself. I treated her better than I treated anyone else in my life, hence she treated me like garbage and I still don't get it. But the instant I respond F you, she is backflipping to grab my interest. I'm not sure whether I ought to be offended over this. There you have it. Now everyone can relax. Regarding my daughter, I get anxious. Hello everyone. I am new to this sub but not new to Reddit. Actually, I have been searching for suitable references to handle my current circumstances. Though I'll outline it below for you all, feel free to review my history to obtain a better backdrop. Ex-wife of mine had an affair. It ran for over 2 years. My ex-wife compared me to our OM a lot and was really nasty to me during this period. Our sex life was worse than it had been before, and at first I blamed all of my failings. I didn't have a straightforward strategy to leave her once I found the affair, But it gradually came to pass. One weekend she departed to hang out with OM and lied to me about it. I contacted the other betrayed partner and we worked together to divorce each of our respective wives. The affair was revealed to our age-appropriate children during this process under a mommy broke a promise to daddy kind of conversation. Not specifics, only that we were heading our different directions but yet loved them very much. Though of course they didn't want the divorce to occur, which is also quite reasonable, they took it as well as anyone would want. Although my ex-wife has been relentlessly advocating for reconciliation, I wasn't there to provide her another chance. Understanding it wasn't about me, I forgave her and wanted to be done with the relationship. The divorce grew more expensive the closer it approached completion, although the financial harm was not too severe. I also have to say that the other betrayed partner and I began a gradual relationship immediately following the divorce. It was first like FWB, but these days it's far more serious. Had it not been for our mutual support during the aftermath of the affair, I most certainly would still be with my cheating ex, that or murdered myself, half joking. Still, I constantly chat to my children to find out how they are handling this. I strive to make sure our talks are honest. If they object to my relationship with the other betrayed partner, they can let me know so. I wouldn't be insulted since I want to avoid putting them in a position that would cause problems down the road. 10-year-old son likes OBS. Given her age, 15, my daughter would rather have a little more time adjusting to the new dynamic. She says she doesn't want to meddle with my connection with the other betrayed partner and she wants to see me happy. I told her I wanted her to be happy too, even if it is not her place. She can say so, and I wouldn't mind, if she prefers the other betrayed partner. She claims she just needs some time and is good with the other betrayed partner. About good partnerships, we have had several conversations with them. My daughter and I have had a lot of conversations regarding her concerns and worries. She seems generally quite helpful to me thus far. The other betrayed partner, and my son, daughter and her 2 daughters are very subtle in our relationship so as not to overwhelm all the other engaged children. Everyone, even OM, is in therapy. But that is a different matter entirely. This is clearly an unusual circumstance, as you can observe, which brings me back to my kid. The affair and choices taken have clearly affected her relationship with her mother. She tells me straightforwardly that she hates her as none of this would have happened without her. She is quite defiant with her mother. She pushes off her mother's attempts at affection, sulks when it is her turn to take her, and even curses at her once, which results in me stepping in and instructing her to be respectful, which she followed in that incident. The two had argued, and it worries me greatly that my daughter is suffering in such a severe degree. Though there is only so much she can do on her own, my ex-wife is attempting to cope as best as she can. Since I chose to divorce, she wants my help in restoring a relationship with her kid. She was the one who cheated. I could toss her right back off. I am above that, yet it calls into question how I handled this. Concerns I have. My daughter respects nothing about her mother. My daughter doesn't know her mother mistreated her. She wants things to be back as they were. Although my daughter is in treatment, I'm not sure how much it is benefiting her. She seems overburdened since she believes she has no voice or control over the circumstances. She has managed my relationship with the other betrayed partner really effectively, but I worry she is suppressing her feelings. Divorce of their mother seems like I might have damaged their lives. Though I'm not returning to that poisonous person either. I really value any advice. Update: I know you folks are worried about me. Hey everybody, sure, I saw your chat requests and emails. I'm sorry for not getting back. I'm not active here anymore, but I am very much aware that some have been attempting to follow up on my position and this update will help to allay your concerns. Not a happy ever after, be advised. First let's start with the large elephant in the room. How are the other deceived spouses and I doing? Actually, amazing. Years ago, I would have gone after a woman like her if I realized she existed earlier. LOL. All joking aside, other from her I have never had a closer bond with any lady. I had no idea what a good relationship looked like as my ex-wife put me through the grind so often. Though I still have self-doubts, the other betrayed partner is a great friend and has supported me through this. I really love this gal quite a bit. I feel the same way about her and she has repeatedly shown me, time and time again, that I mean a great deal to her. Nothing more than a girlfriend though. I have questions about the entire concept of marriage. We still conduct things behind closed doors and minimize involving the children in the full relationship process. Indeed though, the children are aware of our courting. Regarding the children, their start was really difficult. Who am I kidding? But right now they are getting along really nicely. I believe it largely relates to our close involvement in their life and ensuring they had someone to talk to when they encountered difficulties. Many therapies as well. Love the other betrayed spouse to bits, my daughter and son do. She interacts with children quite naturally. Her kids enjoy me much more than they did about 2 years ago. To really surprise me, her youngest began telling others that I'm her stepdad at events and gatherings I took her to. She said she loved me a lot and I made her mom happy, so she's happy I'm her stepdad. I was scared she felt forced to see me that way. You have no idea how emotional I became upon learning that. It felt like a ton of bricks from nowhere, but I did present a brave front. Though they presented a unified front to mercilessly taunt my son, the only boy and youngest of the bunch, I enjoy seeing my kids contentedly playing with OBS. Indeed, I'm not sure whether I should smile or grimace at that one. How about my unfaithful former partner? We get along rather well. She has been working very hard on her own to mend her relationship with her daughter. I was pleased when my daughter informed me she could find it in her heart to forgive her mother for what she did. Over these years, they have gone through a lot and have grown really nicely together. Still, I doubt my ex-wife has completely embraced our couple's way of life. She still seems to be seeking for or implying a second try. She still goes to individual therapy while working out at the gym. She seems far healthier overall now, but I don't really give a damn. I've reconciled with the past. Her issue stems from not following suit. Now, she talks more with the other betrayed partner. This is reciprocated, but the other betrayed partner routinely sees her with mistrust, as she should, given all that has happened. OM is a cause gone lost. I had no idea what a disaster the man would be, all that money and no brains would create. Currently he has a girlfriend, but his children hate her and are rather honest about it. I needed some time to realize how self-absorbing the man was. To be honest, I also dislike his girlfriend. She strikes me as being quite cruel toward the girls, materialistic and selfish. In other words, we're performing better than just good. I had my questions about whether this was the correct route, but given the hard work of the people engaged, it is working out quite brilliantly. Not a happily ever after, just right now. Well, you have it right. Now everyone may relax easily. Jealous wife demanded an open marriage, cheated with her ex, and stalked me when I moved on. Now she wants to close our marriage. I, 39M, and my 37F wife have been married for 15 years. Our 2 children are a boy aged 12 and a 14-year-old girl. My wife came to me roughly 1.5 years ago requesting an open marriage. She claimed she wanted to see more and was bored with just us. Since I really think marriage is between 2 people, I was quite against this. My wife had only been with me, while I had 5 sexual partners at the same time we were getting married. She made it plain that she was ready to file for divorce or that we open things up. Neither of us wanted that, so I consented under specific conditions. None brought back to the house, we don't discuss partners, the kids don't know, family doesn't know, all partners are tested ahead of time, none that we both know, etc. My wife went out and did not return until 4 a.m., so my strong suspicion, that she had someone in mind, was validated 24 hours after we decided. I wanted to save my marriage, but I was really not good with it and found it difficult. Last May I ran across Amber. Together our daughters are in the marching band. Amber is divorced and has no desire in getting married once again. She does have wants, like everyone else on the planet. 5 months after the marriage opened, I started sleeping with Amber. Though initially it felt like cheating, really it's good to have something no strings where neither of us wants it to move forward. I grew at ease with the notion that my wife and I could satisfy our desires both inside and outside of our marriage over time. We were far happier and our sex life was indeed far more passionate. In April amid the coronavirus, my wife and her sidemate, who I never met, stopped seeing each other. From what I understand, his wife is unaware and it was difficult to get away even though he is in an open marriage. We helped plan a fantastic Zoom concert for the band students in May. Though my wife met Amber for the first time, well, I believe Amber has been open with a couple of the mothers since it came back to my wife that Amber was her outside partner. As we both know Amber, my wife told me I had to call it quits with her. I turned down, pointing out that neither of us know her ahead of time and that our meeting followed the guidelines we set. She has told me several times over the past month that she is unhappy with me sleeping with Amber and that I should call off the arrangement. Remember that she was good for a year while she was with her boyfriend. She came to me this weekend and said she wanted to reopen our marriage under closure. I told her I was open to that as long as we decided it would stay closed going forward. She agreed that she wants that as well, that she doesn't need any more partners, and that she would be content with just me. We might agree to dissolve the marriage under 2 conditions, the first I mentioned above, and the second I wanted her to sign a document waiving spousal support should divorce come about. She started to flip. She flatly refused to even give that any thought. Since we married, my wife hasn't worked. If she signed, she suggested, I could keep seeing Amber and leave her empty-handed. I told her I would be ready to add a list of mutually agreed upon events, including adultery on my side, wherein the agreement would be worthless. She claims it's not open for conversation and she won't be left with nothing or kept cheated on when I choose to leave her for Amber. I pointed out that she came up with this entire thing and that I merely followed her to keep our marriage strong. She believes that should we fail to close the marriage, it would as well be over. I informed her I would not put up with being threatened with divorce each time her demand was denied. She thinks I should concentrate on us and I'm acting dramatically. Should I agree to be free from conditions? As we both agreed it was only physical, I know there is no future with Amber. Even though I know I am keeping my ground, I feel like I am blowing apart my marriage over a dead end. Simultaneously, I doubt Amber at all is the focus here. Update 1. As a result of what several of you have mentioned in this thread, I called Amber this morning, reminded her that we were supposed to keep things confidential, and inquired about the person with whom she had disclosed the specifics of our romantic relationship. I didn't get the impression that she was lying when she denied that she had told anyone about it. After retrieving the history of my wife's Google timeline, I found out that she had followed me to Amber's residence in the month of April using Google. After following me, she purposefully presented herself to Amber in order to provoke a conflict between the two of them. I was under the impression that she was interested in forming a relationship with the band's parents, but it turned out that she was just interested in attempting to stop things with my outside partner. Just at this time, I am completely at a loss for what to do. Comments. Al Frosty. I have a sneaking suspicion that your wife has flipped. She has no intention of remaining with you for an extended period of time. Of course, it is just what I was thinking. Believe me when I say that I have no intention of causing her financial hardship. She is considering the possibility that she is so confident in us at this point that she is prepared to put an end to things. What about a year or two from now, when she makes the decision that she wants someone else and decides that she wants to open things up again? What about that? In the event that she wants it both ways, I will not allow myself to be blackmailed with the threat of divorce. I am John Miller. Already, your marriage has come to an end. All the best. OP, I am beginning to understand that completely. She is not the same person I married, and I despise the fact that she is. Lady Magpie. The fact that he is in an open marriage causes his wife to be oblivious of his infidelity. Therefore, he is simply cheating on her. OP. Yes, it seems like my wife had the impression that it was open. He informed her that it was actually the case, and that he was simply playing a game with his wife without her awareness. Regarding the question of whether or not his wife still desired to end the marriage and whether or not the divorce will still take place. My initial inquiry was whether or not she would be willing to consent to the fact that once it was closed, it would remain closed. In the event that we were to divorce, I then inquired as to whether or not she would be ready to forego spousal support. To be more explicit, I inquired as to whether or not she would be willing to waive it only in certain circumstances, such as when she cheated on me or when I refused to reconsider the marriage. She refused to engage in conversation about it. When I think about it, I don't want to be in a scenario where, 6 months from now, her outside partner wants to start over, or she sees someone else she's interested in and decides to threaten me with divorce once more if I don't open up the marriage again. There is no way that I intend to take advantage of her financially. When I asked her for a guarantee that she wouldn't ask me that question again, I was curious to see how she would respond to my request. The fact that she was not willing to put her money where her mouth was made very evident by her response. When it came to how he first met Amber, Amber was introduced to me by the band parents. Only in the band do our daughters share a close relationship with one another. It is not my wife's thing to be involved in a band, so she did not participate in any way. As she was looking for things to do while the quarantine was in effect, she came to the conclusion that she would want to assist with the concert. Should I have responded with, "No, you can't because my outside partner is a band mom and I don't want you involved in that circle"? If so, what would have been the appropriate response? She did not belong to my wife's group of friends. There was no involvement of my wife in the band until the month of May, which was a full year after I began seeing Amber. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that there was a very particular reason why my wife made the abrupt decision to become associated with the band. My relationship with Amber began in May of 2019, and she has been happily married to her boyfriend since December of 2018. Update 2. To briefly summarize, my wife expressed her desire to have an open marriage to me. While I did agree with her when she informed me that she was getting ready to file for divorce. While it took me a few months, she was able to find an outside partner in just 24 hours. The relationship between her and her partner ended. In an effort to coerce me into ending my relationship, She followed me around and introduced herself to my boyfriend. Following the failure of that strategy, she made the decision to seek that the marriage be terminated once more. The constraints that I imposed on it were ones that she was unwilling to accept. I am now moving on to the final month, which has been a really challenging month. After learning about the stalking, I confronted my wife. When I brought up her location history, she initially disputed it, but then I brought it up again. The attempt to deflect was made by her, and she claimed that I had invaded her private. Nevertheless, I did not accept the bait. At long last, she revealed that she did not enjoy the fact that I had someone on the side when she did not, and that a mother at the school made her feel as though she was too close to home. I made a deal with Amber that I would end our relationship if she committed to attending counseling, permanently ending the marriage, and beginning the process of looking for a job to assist with the costs of maintaining the household. It was her response that she is a mother who stays at home. I informed her that it was something that we may discuss again when the coronavirus has passed, but that if things return to normal, she will not be able to simply remain at home. We participated in a few sessions of therapy, and at first, everything went swimmingly. In addition to challenging her to explain why she had followed me, the therapist inquired as to the reason she believed it was necessary for her to leave the marriage, and she was required to address virtually everything that was going through my head. The situation then deteriorated. She stated that her outside partner was someone from her past, specifically a boyfriend from her high school years. Prior to anything happening, they had split up and then reconciled with one another. As a result of her sadness that she had not been able to accompany him throughout high school, she made the decision that she wanted to fulfill that goal. I was enraged by that. In the same way that my choice of a mother from school was too close to home, I warned her that her choice of a married ex-boyfriend was entirely contrary to the standards of appropriate behavior. My response to her was that I didn't even want to look at her. Because I didn't want my children to see me in such a state, I moved into a hotel room to get some much-needed rest. I was there for a few days with my family. Following that, I made the decision to return to my house and deal with the remnants of my marriage. I was surprised to see that my daughter, who is just 14 years old, was acting in a manner that was abnormally cold toward me when I arrived home. Quite dismissive was her demeanor. When I asked her what was going on, she proceeded to accuse me of having an affair with a band mom while she was with my mother. When I questioned her where she became aware of this information, she initially refused to tell me, claiming that it was irrelevant. However, she eventually acknowledged that her mother had informed her that I had been staying at the residence of my girlfriend after I had left. I informed her that it wasn't true, showed her the receipt for the hotel that was on my phone, and explained that her mother and I had a quarrel, so I decided to take some time away so that we could both calm down. I counted to 10 in my brain, and then I showed her the receipt. I made a vow to her that I loved her and that I would continue to love her even after she shed a lot of tears. Despite the fact that I was sweltering on the inside, I did my best to maintain my composure. Not even my wife was there to greet me. Instead, I went to Facebook and located the woman who was married to the guy. I wrote her a message in which I informed her that her husband had been having an affair with my wife for a year and a half, and that I would be pleased to send her any proof that she would like to verify this information. She expressed her gratitude and had a sneaking suspicion that something was wrong. A few hours later, my wife rushed to me in a fit of wrath, yelling that I had failed to maintain the confidentiality of our therapy session and that I had ruined the life of the individual. I inquired about her intentions about the disclosure of the fact that I was dating someone to our kid. In spite of her denials, she continues to refuse to acknowledge that she disclosed any information to her other than the fact that I was absent for a few days. On Thursday of last week, something occurred. Since then, we have not communicated with one another. Tomorrow is the day when we are scheduled to have another therapy session, but I am not sure if it is even worthwhile to have that session. Despite the fact that I continually catch her in falsehoods, I don't believe that I will ever be able to trust her again. When I think about it, I feel sick to my stomach, even though I am aware that filing for divorce is the prudent choice at this moment in time. The fact that I was unable to make my marriage work together makes me feel like a failure. In spite of the fact that I'm aware that this is the final destination, I can't help but feel like I'm going to puke up every time I attempt to phone an attorney. Comment, Acton of chatting. We are grateful for the update. I am sorry to read that therapy is only bringing more things to light, and it is evident that your faith in your wife has been utterly shattered as a result of her lying to you. I really hope that your wife wasn't the one to tell it to your daughter, but when people are sinking quickly, they will cling on to anything to keep them afloat, and turning the kids against you isn't exactly an innovative technique. I hope that your wife didn't tell that to your daughter. Despite the fact that the marriage has reached its conclusion, you are not a failure. It is highly recommended that you get in touch with the attorney at this time. No matter how challenging it may be, you should do it for yourself, for your children, and even for your wife, so that she can reach her lowest point on her own without wrecking your lives in the process. May you have success, sir. You are a resource. You should consult with a lawyer. Your wife started the relationship after she had already cheated on you or was about to cheat on you anyhow, if you're being completely honest with yourself. In the event that things did not go as planned, she did not want you to enjoy yourself while she was not. With no intention of doing so, she does not make any contributions to the household. Incessantly, she tells lies. What gives you the impression that anything would rectify this situation? It is important to believe someone when they reveal themselves to you. Either she gets her way or the highway. Therefore, as I mentioned before, you should consult with a lawyer, get your financial situation in order and walk out of this terrible relationship. Oh my goodness, Lisa, you didn't fail, that's for sure. Your spouse had the intention of cheating, but she did not want to label it cheating. Never once did she want or anticipate that you would do the same. It is really manipulative of her to say that she would divorce you if you did not comply with her demands. The fact that she attempted to damage the relationship you have with your daughter is the conclusion that you have reached. The scenario is not one that I would consider to be fixable. Yet, you should never be too hard on yourself for any of this. It seems as though your wife is completely losing her mind, and although you have been trying to hold on for dear life, it may be time for you to let go. In addition, I would be completely honest with your daughter about the aforementioned circumstance. In light of the fact that everything will eventually be revealed, it is preferable to have the complete truth rather than rumors and lies.